One man is being victimized by our own government. One man whom they fear, yet whom millions love. One man who is willing to take the poison arrows of lawfare. One man whose voice has been taken away by a corrupt judge operating in a corrupt system. One man who has been ridiculed and insulted. One man who refused to back down. One man who refused to back down. One man who refused to back down. One man who stands between us and them. One man that wants to see America protected again. One man who wants to see America prosper again. One man who understands that a man is a man and a woman is a woman. One man who understands and protects the blessing of life. One man who wants to restore American exceptionalism. One man who once again wants to make America that shining city on a hill for all to see. A place where all the people of the world glowingly set their eyes upon. America. One man who unashamedly wants to make America great again. That one man is Donald Trump.
This is Fanfare with Barry Cunningham.
Hello, and welcome to the Thursday afternoon edition. And on this big, beautiful day here in South Florida, we're celebrating the passage of the big, beautiful bill. Prosperity for America is on the way. So let me just tell you what's going to happen today. I've got some things to show you, and then at 1 o'clock, Caroline Leavitt is coming out for what's the second press conference of the week? I guess maybe third if you count the one with the little kids. This one may have some fireworks in it. I think after what happened yesterday with the president of South Africa and with the nuts just going crazy, plus with the unfortunate murder that took place last night in Washington, D.C. Matter of fact, let me pull that up before we go anywhere. Let's talk about that for 1 second before I even move forward with the show. I got off our show last night. I don't know, 10:30 or so we were done. Thank you guys if you watched. And walked out as I normally do and take my seat on the couch and breathe and unwind. And I clicked on the television expecting to go watch, one of my DVR shows, and the news was on, and these two people, their lives were destroyed in Washington, D.C. These are the two people. This beautiful couple was murdered in cold blood by a radicalized, liberal, biting, voting Jew hater. Sarah Milgram and Yaron Lishinsky, they did nothing wrong. Liberalism and the Democrat Party took their lives. And I just want to just take a second and just pray for their families and for their families to find some sort of comfort in everything that has just happened in the last 12 or 14 hours of their families' lives. Nobody should have to go through this, especially something completely senseless. Just at an event, just out on the town, and some idiot radical decides that they want to take matters into their own hands and destroy somebody's lives. 2 lives. Actually, more lives. Their families. It's beyond sickening. And my heart goes out to that family, and it goes out to America, because now this is the world we live in. These people are bat poop crazy. I don't know if it's MK Ultra, I don't know if it's the media, whatever radicalization they're finding on college campuses. These people are nuts. And I'm afraid to tell you, it's probably going to get even nuttier. A lot of people don't want to see what's happening around them. These two young people were just out on a night out of the town in Washington, D.C. at an event. Could have been me and Robin. Could be you and your husband or wife. Just out doing what you would normally do on an event or dinner, a movie. And some idiot doesn't like the fact that, you may look a certain way or you may worship a certain way. And because of that, you deserve to not be here anymore. Luckily, we live in a state down here where everybody walks around packing. Just like Texas. People know better. Don't try nothing, won't be nothing. But of course, in some of these other states, I'm not really sure what the carrying laws are in Washington, D.C. But if I lived in Washington, D.C., I'd have to carry. I'll worry about that penalty afterwards. I want to come home to my wife. I want that to be something I strive to make sure happens. I want to make sure she comes home to me. And I don't want to be out at a party or an event or dinner and have some idiot decide simply because of what my last name was, who I worship, that I don't deserve to be here anymore. And you guys who have been MAGA, hopefully for quite some time, understand, we've had to deal with this. Maybe not as bad as the Jewish people, but we've indeed had to deal with a lot of their nuttiness. Just be careful out there. Be careful out there. I couldn't go on talking about the big, beautiful bill without first acknowledging the insanity that's out there. And that insanity also went into the House of Representatives last night. Luckily, Mike Johnson kept these people in the House until, I guess, 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. They were still on it. 5 o'clock in the morning. We had a guest scheduled for today, and we couldn't do it because she's like, I got to go sleep. We've been up for almost 36 hours straight getting it done, but they got it done. Now it's up to the Senate, and hopefully they can get it done expeditiously. So I'm going to explain some things to you today. I don't know how much I'm going to get in before Caroline Leavitt hits the podium, but I'm going to try and get done a lot here and explain to you how this is all going to work. And there's a lot of people who have questions as to what happened to Social Security. How am I going to get stiffed? Chill. Pump the brakes. We're going to explain that to you in detail. My guest who was supposed to come today but was deservedly needs her rest is Kat Kamek from Florida. She had to leave Washington and go home, but she recorded a video which I am going to show you, which is going to explain to you specifically everything you need to know about Social Security in regards to this bill. That being said, let's look at how President Trump spoke about it. The one big beautiful bill has passed the House of Representatives. This is arguably the most significant piece of legislation that will ever be signed in the history of our country. This bill includes massive tax cuts. No tax on tips, no tax on overtime, tax reductions when you purchase an American-made vehicle, along with strong border security measures. Pay raises for our ICE and Border Patrol agents, funding for the Golden Dome, Trump savings accounts for newborn babies. By the way, they're pissed off that he named them Trump savings accounts. That's how petty these people are. And much more. Great job by Speaker Mike Johnson and the House leadership, and thank you to every Republican who voted yes on this historic bill. Now it's time for our friends in the United States Senate to get to work and send this bill to my desk as soon as possible. There is no time to waste. The Democrats have lost control of themselves. They are one big ball of lies. He didn't say it. I said that. They've lost control of themselves and are aimlessly wandering around, showing no confidence, grit, or determination. They have forgotten their landslide loss in the presidential election and are warped in the past. They're hoping someday to revive open borders for the world's criminals to be able to pour into our country, men to be able to play in women's sports, and transformers for everybody. They don't realize that these things and so many more like them will never again happen. I can only hope that he has his way and that indeed is true. So, before we go too much further, let's talk about what's actually in this bill. And so in order to do that, I'm going to have to change to this window. All right. Here's what's in the bill, amongst other things. The one big beautiful bill has passed. All right. Number one, it's the largest tax cut in history. Biggest tax cut ever. Undeniable, the biggest tax cut in history. This means $13,300 more for American families, and wage increases up to $11,000 for workers, with a double-digit % decrease to their tax bills, plus no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, a tax cut on, this is really important, a tax cut on senior Social Security benefits, an expanded child tax credit, and a tax deduction on American-made vehicles. Americans making between $30,000 and $80,000 per year will see their taxes cut by 15% next year. All right, why is that so big, and why are the Democrats complaining? Because it rewards wage earners. Simple. That's why they're freaking out. It rewards people who actually work for a living. When they say, it's going to hurt the least amongst of us aren't paying taxes. Understand, when they start with that complete BS that they always, the least amongst of us are going to, no, the least amongst of us aren't seeing anything because they're not paying anything. Don't fall for that BS. It's insane. They are so in the tank for doing nothing for wage earners and everything for people who basically just exist in society. And I'm not, again, every time I talk like this, people get upset. I'm not talking about the affirmed or injured or disabled. None of that. I'm not talking about people who have a mental deficiency where they can't do things. Not talking about them. We're talking about able-bodied men and women who have chosen, who specifically have chosen not to be a participant in the work of this economy. They decide to sit back and let you take care of them. So is it going to affect them? Hell yes, it's going to affect them. Should it affect them? Hell yes, it should affect them. If you got to get up every morning to go to work, if I got to get up every morning to go to work, why the hell can't these people get up every morning to go to work? Sorry. The ride is over. You are going to have to contribute. You're going to have to participate in this economy. Otherwise, yeah, it will affect you. And I don't have a problem with that. None whatsoever. Get your asses off the couch and go to work. Trump's job is to make sure there's work available. There's two sides to that coin. It would be bad if all of a sudden there was no place to work. Oh, yeah, he did all this, but there's going to be plenty of places to work. You're not going to be able to be like at Starbucks and decide, I'm going to strike. Why? Because they're making me wear a uniform. I'm going to lose my identity. This is a job, idiot. You want to do identity and have your own thing? Join a band. Then you can wear whatever you want, sing whatever you want. But if you show up punching a clock for somebody, expect them to expect you to look decent for their customers. But I'm not going to go too far in that right now because, yeah, all right. Raising wages. American workers will see wage increases of up to $11,600. A typical family with 2 kids will see take-home pay raised by $13,000. For those of you keeping track at home, that's a little over, probably about $1,100 a month more in your pocket. Stronger border security. This makes President Trump's border crackdown permanent with the largest investment ever, funding at least 1 million newcomer deportations per year, thousands of miles of new border wall and barriers, 18,000 plus new immigration officials, and pay raises for our great ICE and Border Patrol agents. But does that mean that they can't come across the border? Yes, exactly what that means. Yeah, the Maryland man going to have to stay in El Salvador. Sorry. Protecting Medicaid for American citizens who, look at the line, who need it. This ends taxpayer-funded benefits for at least 1.4 million newcomers who are gaming the system, and it requires able-bodied Americans to work if they receive benefits. Again, none of us have any problem with anybody. Let me just go ahead and open this up. Let me see if it'll come up in this window, because it had a link to it. And that link says, Medicaid changes proposed in the bill. Work requirements move from 2029 to the end of 2026. Qualified alien restricts definition on who is eligible. New incentives for states that have not already expanded Medicaid under Obamacare. So you got to go to work. Bottom line, that's how they're phrasing it, and you have to go to work. Anybody have a problem with that? Anybody have a problem that requiring able-bodied Americans to go to work? I know you don't have any problem in the aforementioned 1.4 million newcomers have to get off of it. So when you say you're cutting Medicaid and they're screaming, oh, it's cutting Medicaid, not one of these hosts on CNN or MSNBC ever asks for who? Who is getting Medicaid cut? They never ask that question because they don't want you to know the answer. It's those people who aren't supposed to be here in the first place that you've been paying for. And people who have able-bodied and go to work. What's wrong with that? Next, pay raises for our troops. Yes, of course. Increase special pay for service members and gives them higher allowance for housing, health care, and family assistance. No problem. And this is another big one while they're crying. Ending taxpayer-funded chemical castration and mutilation. It reverses the Biden-era mandate that Medicaid covers so-called transitioning procedures. Nope, not going to pay for it. You want to go lop your junk off? Go do it yourself. Why am I paying for your procedure? You don't pay for mine. I don't remember going to the government and say, hey, listen, I got a bad knee. I got to get these cortisone shots. Anybody want to divvy up and give me the money for it? Nope. Nope. Modernizing air traffic control. Of course we need that. That should be self-explanatory. Revolutionizing the nation's defense. This funds President Trump's Golden Dome missile-ready defense shield. Do you know that they're actually complaining about that? Oh, what do we need all this stuff for? Well, you know, there's these countries that don't like us that might try to shoot something. And if we have to explain defense to these people? Okay, protecting families' farmers. This bill prevents the greedy death tax from hitting 2 million family-owned farms that would otherwise see their exemptions cut in half and cut taxes on farmers by over $10 billion. This death tax thing, I would almost wish they would extend that to everybody, is that you purchased a property, you've paid taxes on that property, and then when you die, they tax you before you can pass it on to your heirs if you don't know how to set things up. Another thing they don't tell you. They don't tell you about that in school. They don't tell you the tools that people who know what they're doing, who like to pass on prosperity to their kids, they don't teach that. Never have. Oh yeah, you get double tax. Who the hell you think's paying double tax? Not the Nancy Pelosi's of this world. Not a lot of the people I know are paying double tax because they know how to put the thing together. Remember this statement. Always remember this. This is most important for you to become more prosperous. Ready? You might want to write it down. It is 100% illegal to evade income taxes. Got that part? It is also 100% encouraged to avoid income tax. You see, one of them is based upon a crime, the other one is based upon using the code and planning. Most people don't know how to utilize the tools available to you to avoid paying income taxes. And that's how they get you. That's how they put you on that treadmill forever, because nobody ever teaches you. How do I avoid taxes? Isn't that illegal? Not at all. It's 100% encouraged. That was said by a Supreme Court justice years ago. The reason why it's encouraged, because the more you avoid taxes, the more money you put into the economy, dummy. Because you're not giving it to the government. You're passing it on. You're keeping it. You're spending it. You're buying a house, a boat, investment property. Not like Tish James, though. Big Letty screwed up. But the more you can accumulate, the more you will learn how to avoid paying taxes on it. And you should do it with a flippin' smile on your face. Don't be upset, and don't let people shame you like, hey, you didn't pay tax. What did President Trump say? Well, you didn't. You paid like nothing in taxes. That makes me smart. Do you remember the debate against Hillary, where they tried to say, oh, you don't pay taxes? That makes me smart. I'm just using the rules you people put in place. You don't know the rules because nobody tells you. Maybe perhaps you should learn those rules instead of worrying about taxes. I digress. Let's go back in here. Unleashing American energy dominance. The bill increases onshore and offshore oil and gas leases, blah, 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 blah. Reader's Digest version. Drill, baby, drill. And in this one, reverses runaway spending. This delivers $1.6 trillion in mandatory savings, the most in U.S. history, and the largest deficit reduction in nearly 30 years. Saving money from the American for the American taxpayer. Continuing, I want you to see this one. Brianna Morella dug into it. This is huge. Not a dime for USAID funding. Not one dime. Done. The slush fund of the world has come to a complete, utter stop. We are done paying your bills. Do it yourself. Figure it out. You guys, these are the people, these people shouldn't be in Congress next year, but there are 5 Republicans who didn't vote for Trump's big, beautiful tax bill. Thomas Massey, you got to go, bro. Sorry. Warren Davidson of Ohio, Andy Harris from Maryland, David Schweikert from Arizona, and Andrew Garbarino from New York. They didn't even bother to vote. I forget which one of these guys, but one of these guys fell asleep. I understand after being awake for 24 hours, he fell asleep and didn't make it. He didn't make it to the bill. How do you work on it all night, and then when it's time to actually do something, just say, wake me up when it's time. Nobody told you? Don't you have a watch? A cell phone? A cell phone. Yeah, you can put an alarm in here and it will wake you up and when it's time to get up. How do you sleep through voting for a bill? But for some of you, this may be the most important clause, or one of the most important clauses in this bill. The House bill, reconciliation bill, that includes that defunds Planned Parenthood. They're done. At least from you having to pay for it. And it would strip those who commit newcomer removal, baby removal, from all federal funds. So we will no longer be subsidizing the removal of babies. I'm good with that. You're probably good with that. Let's see what else I got here to show you. So, of course, the Democrats, they're out there bitching and whining as usual. Senator Chris Van Hollen came up with this and said, House Republicans, on the orders of their dear leader, just passed their billionaire tax giveaway at the expense of everyone else. The bill slashes Medicaid and food and nutrition programs and explodes the deficit, driving up interest rates and costs. We must defeat it in the Senate. They never say, and we should know if it's Van Hollen who he's talking about. Oh, he's definitely talking about more and more Maryland man. That's who it slashes Medicaid and food and nutrition. Why don't you want people to go to work? Why is it that you're encouraging Slavic people just to not do anything? Why is that what you want for America? Nobody ever asked him. And when you say just billionaire tax giveaway, it's going to benefit me. It's probably going to benefit you watching. I'm not a billionaire. More than likely, you're not a billionaire, but you're gonna see some benefit. You know who else is gonna see a benefit? A bunch of Democrats. See, as much as they always try to say it's only for the billionaires, the people complaining are gonna benefit. Nothing stopping Senator Van Hollen from paying more taxes anytime he wants. So if you got a tax cut, or any other libnuts, your next door neighbor, your people you work with, any of those people who complain about, it's a tax cut for billionaires and he's taking away funding for so-and-so. Oh, you can fix that. You surely can fix that. How do you fix that? Give them your money. And watch them shut up. Watch them contort themselves when you tell them there is nothing stopping you. There is not a single law in existence that stops you from paying more taxes. And I've said that to people over the course of last couple of years, and I just watched them have nothing to say. Huh? Yeah, cut a check. In fact, you don't even have to wait till April 15th. You can cut a check every single day to the IRS. They will never send your money back. They will say thank you with a smile. To the Treasury, I guess. Hey, here's a donation for some newcomers. Okay, here's $1,000. Thank you. You hypocrite. If you care so much, you do it. No, they never say that, do they? They never even comment in that regard. I've done that on Twitter. F you. What are you mad at me for? If you care so much, you do it. You know, I don't mind people who do that. If you want to spend your money in your way, have at it. You want to donate money to, Save the Whales and whatever and Greta Thunberg, have at it. Just don't ask me to contribute. I don't ask you to buy Dolphins tickets. Why are you asking me to contribute to, baby removal? They never, ever can answer that. Never. Never. Not even like one time have I ever heard anybody say, oh, okay, I'll write a check right now. No, they want you. They want your money. They want our money. And most of them who have this issue aren't even paying taxes or paying very little because they ain't making any money. Even Bernie Sanders has been a millionaires and billionaires. Hey, Bernie, let's see your tax return. How much did you give away? Really? Nothing? What did they say? Bernie gave away something like $10,000 with a $2 million, whatever his income is. Ask AOC for her tax return. How much you give away? But you're asking everybody else to pay. Make that make sense. So the rapid response team came back and said, no, more lies from Chris Van Hollen. He's just mad that the one big beautiful bill allows for the hiring of 10,000 additional ICE agents who will arrest and deport the terrorists he so adores. Spankety. All right, so I'm watching the camera here. I might be at the end of what I can do at this point until she comes on. So what we'll do here as we get ready, because she's usually quite prompt, let's look at a couple things, a couple comments. Actually, what do I have here? Not sure when she'll walk out. So, no tax on Social Security cannot be included because it will require more votes. Instead, they included an additional 4,000. You're almost right. You're very, very close, Pat. I'm going to explain the entire thing about Social Security, but Pat is 80% of the way there. 80%, but she's right. Bernie needs to buy bibs because he's always spitting when he says oligarchy. Yeah. Secretary Rubio, will people earning a salary, would they get a tax break? Well, based upon what I just read to you, and I shut the window, I think the big break is for people, actually the people under $80,000 a year. So if you make less than 80,000, yeah, you're going to see a break. And if you make over 80,000, I suggest you, how can I say this? Make your own break. That's why I included that statement. See, if you make over 80,000, if you make 100,000, you can enjoy a whole lot of tax breaks if you know what they are. Write it down, carve it in ice, do what you need to do. It is 100% illegal to evade taxes. It is 100% encouraged to avoid taxes. You make over 100,000, 150,000, there are many, 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 many ways for you to avoid paying taxes. Just that people don't teach that. So you would have to find a financial advisor, accountant. I would actually encourage you to hire a tax attorney, not an accountant. Anyone who asks me, I always say hire a tax attorney. And people say, well, Barry, why? Can't I go to HR and block, or can I do it? Because a tax attorney has attorney-client privilege. Nobody can tell your attorney, show me Fred's stuff. Nope, sorry, attorney-client privilege. H&R Block, not so much. They'll turn that stuff over like stool, just here, whatever you need, we'll give it to you. So that's the first thing I would tell you in terms of your next tax strategy, is that when you start looking into it and you talk to someone, make sure you talk to a tax attorney. Yes, it's going to cost you money. It may cost you $500 or $1,000, maybe even $2,000 to meet with a tax attorney to set up what you need to do. But your question was, if you make a salary, do you get a break? So I assume you're over $80,000. If you're over $80,000, pay the money and get a tax attorney. Just saying. You must get Medicare at 65. It's the law. Well, I've got a new partner we're going to be working with that should come on board probably early June. Ashley's been talking to them. We've got some meetings that are going to explain all about that Medicare thing that you're referring to. Screw the SS. Where was that? Screw the. Yes, according to Mike Rowe, there are over 7 million jobs in the USA available right now. If you don't want to work, I don't know how you're going to eat. Sorry. Sorry, not sorry. We're not paying for you anymore. Ain't going to happen. So at this point, a lot of people who have grifted in America now are going to have to figure this out. They're going to have to do it. They couldn't include the Social Security because the bird won't allow Congress to mess with Social Security. You're very close. I'm going to explain it to you. I just don't have time to do it. I doubt Caroline's going to do it. So let me just tell you also, okay, what's going to happen. Caroline Levitt's going to come on here any minute. She's going to do her press conference. It'll probably talk a little bit about the big bill, and then they're going to try and pivot real quick to the quote ambush from yesterday, and they're going to talk about those things. I would almost not be surprised. Keep your eyes out here. I would not be surprised if the big man comes out himself and takes some questions. He just got a big, beautiful bill passed, and this might be an opportunity that she goes, I could talk, but I'm just going to let him come out at this point. So I wouldn't be surprised if he comes out, but if he doesn't, she's going to take all these questions. Then after the press conference is over, I'm going to go through the rest of what I have to show you. And then at 2:30, Reagan Reese, who's probably in that conference room, White House press room right now, she's going to be with us at 2:30. She's going to talk to us about what she heard about yesterday's blow up in the White House, and then whatever happens in here today. So we've got some stuff ahead to show you, and I'm going to show you about the Social Security and why that didn't get changed so far. So stay tuned. We're going to be here until at least or so 3 o'clock. And then tonight, I'm going to have a whole bunch of stuff and reactions to this, as well as President Trump, I believe at 4 o'clock, is having a Maha event, which should be pretty good as well. Let's see here. Johnson came through. Yes, he did. I'm disabled and lazy. When everything you do hurts, laziness is a side effect. I can't help you with the lazy part. Trust me, there's many times I lay in bed in the morning. Can I just not do anything? Can I just roll back over? Can I just put on some trunks and just go in the pool and hang out? Oh, I know all about the lazy. Yeah. Yeah. And then you look over and the wife's looking at you. I'm like, oh boy. Okay, I got it. Yeah, what happened yesterday was epic. I'll agree. That was crazy. Also, to let you know, since you guys are waiting, what I end up doing every time is to make sure I've got redundant feeds running in case one feed goes down, one feed doesn't sound as good as the other. So as soon as it comes on, I'm going to put up one feed while I configure the other, and then if the other one sounds better, I'll probably go with that. So just beware at the first 30 seconds to 60 seconds in, there may be some change, but that's wanted to let you know. What happened to having Pastor JJ on tonight? Well, two things happened. One thing, my agreement with Rumble is that the last hour of the show I have to do exclusively on Rumble, so many X times per month. The prayer night, I don't want to jump to Rumble. The prayer night, I want dedicated to YouTube because I want to be able to bring comments up, and I want to have those comments because we can address all these different prayer requests and what people are going through. So if I did a jump over at Rumble, then I can't, the software doesn't pull Rumble's comments. It only pulls YouTube's comments. Like as I'm pulling yours right now, I couldn't do that with YouTube, so we would never see it. So if you're ever on our show at night, what ends up happening is when I flip over, I can verbally see some of the comments, but I can't show them to everybody in the community. And so I don't want that experience. I want everyone to be able to see everything. In addition, I don't do the jump over on Rumble until usually it's about 8:30 before I jump over, and that's too late for Pastor JJ. So what we're going to do is find a day, and then I'm going to take a dedicated stream just on YouTube at 7 p.m., and that way we can do the entire prayer night without having to jump. Does that make sense to you? I hope it does, but that's the reasoning behind it. Yes, God bless America, and God bless President Trump. I'm retired and tired. Been taking care of my family and now exhausted. Go MAGA. Yes. Sorry, Barry, I'm not going to another streaming app. Too many apps. Gen X, don't like technology, but really not downloading Rumble. Well, there's a couple problems in what you just said. One, you don't have to go anywhere. And you don't have to download an app. It's a URL when I do my jump over, all you have to do, just like you're opening a website, you just click the button, the link, and it opens up magically on your phone or your computer or your tablet. You don't have to join anything. Not really sure what you're talking about. Not really no technology any different than what you just did to get here. When you got here, you found a link someplace, you clicked on it, you saw it, and you're just watching a video. It's exactly the same thing. You don't have to join anything, you don't have to pay anything, you don't have to create an app or get on an app. You just literally click the link and the video will play. Like right now, I'm simulcasting to Rumble and X. And all you'd have to do is click the link and you would watch us on Rumble. So maybe that technology hurdle is a little bit higher than I thought. After a certain age, can't you earn as much as you want, pretty much? I don't know nothing about that. I'm pretty sure they're going to keep coming for you as long as you're making money. They're not going to say, you're 68, you get to keep everything. No, I don't think so. You're doing a great job, Barry, letting us know the real deal, the art of the deal. And that's one of the highest compliments you guys can make is I'm not trying to influence, I'm trying to educate and a little bit entertainment as well. And I always want to make sure you guys are able to obviously go and look things up, and the guests that we bring on, those are the authorities, those are the experts, and even them, I would trust them. If they say something, I would go verify that as well. Don't laugh at old people. My sister can no longer answer her phone. I wasn't laughing at anybody. I was giving an instruction. I was trying to tell you, you don't need to open an app to go to Rumble. You literally click a link, just like you did for coming to this video. There's no laughing. I was just saying that's all you have to do. There was a question or a statement that said, hey, sorry, I'm not jumping over because I'm not doing this. I just explained to you, you don't have to. Let's see. They set it up so that they tax you from the cradle to the grave. Yep. But if you know how, I can't go there because I don't want to give people, I don't want to tell people stuff that they either don't want to do, don't know how to do, or get themselves in trouble. Again, talk to a tax attorney if you're in that bracket where you'd like to figure out different things you can do. There's so much. See, even with this big, beautiful bill, which I don't know is how many pages, the average American is never going to see that bill. The average American is not going to read that bill. You're not going to find the nuggets that appeal or apply to you most. You're going to have to take someone's word. You're going to have to just wonder, and you don't know. You don't know where that thing falls on you. And so you're going to have to get somebody who you trust to explain it to you and say, listen, here's where I am in life. I have this, I have this, I have this. And you talk to that person. What's your goal? Well, I'd like to pass on this house so that my heirs can have it. Okay. I'd like to pass on this cash. I like to protect this cash. I like to make sure that this income that I'm making from this rental property is taxed at a certain rate. And is there a way I can, is there a way I can shield it? Miss Levitt is on stage.
At the White House.
Good. President Trump is saddened and outraged over the brutal murder of 2 Israeli embassy staff here in Washington, D.C. last night. Yaron Lashinsky and Sarah Milgram were a beautiful young couple. In fact, we learned that Yaron was planning to propose to Sarah next week in Jerusalem. Yaron's father, Daniel, spoke about the young couple's devotion for one another this morning. He said, "They were in love, one for the other. The embassy told us they were like a star couple at the embassy. I never expected something like this. He had his whole life before him." These words, especially every parent knows, are heart-wrenching. The evil of anti-Semitism must be eradicated from our society. I spoke to the Attorney General this morning. The Department of Justice will be prosecuting the perpetrator responsible for this to the fullest extent of the law. Hatred has no place in the United States of America at this unimaginable time. Now for some scheduling announcements. On Saturday morning, President Trump will deliver the commencement address at the United States Military Academy at West Point. On Monday, to commemorate Memorial Day, the president will visit Arlington National Cemetery and participate in a wreath-laying ceremony. The president will further honor our military next month on June 14th when he hosts the 250th anniversary of the United States Army with a grand military parade celebration right here in our nation's capital. President Trump will be joined by veterans, active duty troops, wounded warriors, Gold Star families, and patriotic Americans from across the country to celebrate our heroes who have kept us safe. Tickets for the parade and the celebration are available through the America 250 Commission's event registration portal. It will be a truly historic and special day for our country. After the parade, President Trump will travel to the G7 Leader Summit in Canada from June 15th through the 17th. We will be sending an additional logistics information out after the briefing. Last night, Republicans in the House passed the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, the most significant piece of legislation in years. There were a lot of good faith negotiations in the Republican conference leading up to the final passage, but as always, President Trump came in at the end to bring all sides together and get this deal done. This One Big Beautiful Bill will implement President Trump's Make America Great Again agenda by delivering the largest tax cut in American history for middle-class families, the working class, and small businesses. The One Big Beautiful Bill fulfills President Trump's promises of no tax on tips, which was applauded today by the CEO of Uber, no tax on overtime, a Made in America auto tax break, Trump savings accounts for newborn babies, and substantial tax cuts for our amazing seniors' Social Security benefits. The One Big Beautiful Bill will permanently secure the border by delivering the largest border security investment in history, funding at least 1 million annual removals of illegal aliens to carry out the largest deportation campaign ever, finishing the Trump border wall, and giving pay raises and bonuses for our incredible ICE and Border Patrol agents. The One Big Beautiful Bill protects the Medicaid program and its benefits for the most vulnerable Americans that the program was designed for, by kicking off 1.4 million illegal aliens from receiving benefits and implementing common sense work requirements for able-bodied Americans. The One Big Beautiful Bill also helps get our fiscal house in order by carrying out the largest deficit reduction in nearly 30 years with $1.6 trillion in mandatory savings. Every single Democrat in the House of Representatives who voted against all of these common sense and massively popular policies, the Democrat Party has never been more radical and out of touch with the needs of the American people. The One Big Beautiful Bill is the final missing piece toward ushering the golden age of America. The Senate should pass this as quickly as possible and send it to President Trump's desk for a final signature. After today's briefing, President Trump will hold a Make America Healthy Again event alongside Secretary Kennedy and several other cabinet secretaries to unveil the Maha Commission report. President Trump wants every child in America to grow up and to live a long and healthy life. That's why he's working alongside Secretary Kennedy to end the chronic disease epidemic to keep our children healthy, safe, and disease-free. The Maha Commission report is a historic assessment, the first of its kind by any presidential administration, of current evidence and research about the health crisis affecting America's children. This report is a review of pre-existing research to comprehensively assess what we understand about our health problems and what we don't understand, and how we can find those answers. All of the findings will be based on the gold standard of science. And I think I speak for all Maha moms across the country when I say we look forward to the president's event and remarks later this afternoon. And as we head into the Memorial Day weekend, a quick update on gas prices. According to the fuel savings platform Gas Buddy, the national average price of gasoline is expected to be $3.08 on Memorial Day. We expect that to continue to decline because of the president's energy policies. But this is down from Memorial Day last year. And adjusted for inflation, it's the second cheapest price for a gallon of gas on Memorial Day since 2003, thanks to President Trump. And finally, in other news, the Department of Homeland Security conducted a deportation flight from Texas to remove vicious illegal criminals in the United States. All of these individuals were sent, or are trying to be sent, to a third country. And President Trump promised to get vicious illegal alien murderers, rapists, and pedophiles like these out of our country, and he is trying to deliver on this promise. But no matter how upset this makes Democrats, we will continue to deport these monsters to keep Americans safe. And here are the heinous individuals who were on that flight. A Cuban national, convicted of homicide, armed robbery, false impersonation of an official, kidnapping, and robbery strong-arm. A Cuban national convicted of attempted first-degree murder with a weapon. A citizen of Laos convicted of first-degree murder and robbery. A Mexican national convicted of second-degree murder. A citizen of South Sudan convicted of robbery in the possession of a firearm. A citizen of Burma convicted of lascivious acts with a child less than 12 years old. A citizen of Burma convicted of first-degree sexual assault involving a victim mentally and physically incapable of resisting. It's disgusting. And a Vietnamese national convicted of first-degree murder. Now, a liberal activist district court judge in the city of Boston, Massachusetts, is trying to force the President of the United States to bring these monsters back to our country. Judge Brian Murphy is ordering the Department of Homeland Security to give these illegal criminals 15 days to reopen their immigration cases with access to phones and attorneys. Every single one of these individuals, I will add, had final orders of removal from our country. And now Judge Murphy is forcing federal officials to remain in Djibouti for over 2 weeks, threatening our U.S. diplomatic relationships with countries around the world, and putting these agents' lives in danger by having to be with these illegal murderers, criminals, and rapists. This is completely absurd. Judge Brian Murphy is not the Secretary of State. He is not the Secretary of Defense or the Commander-in-Chief. He is a district court judge in Massachusetts. He cannot control the foreign policy or the national security of the United States of America, and to suggest otherwise is being completely absurd. According to new reporting about this judge, he's a registered Democrat in Massachusetts who during his Senate confirmation hearings failed to disclose his ties to a radical left-wing organization that claimed the word illegal to describe illegal aliens was inherently prejudicial. This massive judicial overreach by Judge Murphy is part of the same opposition our administration has faced since day one. Radical left-wing judges are egregiously trying to stop President Trump from using his core constitutional powers as head of the executive branch and commander-in-chief. These judicial activists want to unilaterally stop President Trump from deporting foreign terrorists and keeping the American people safe. Nearly 80 million Americans re-elected this president to deport illegal criminals from our homeland, and polling consistently shows that 90% of Americans want illegal alien criminals, especially those with final orders of removal from our country, who have chosen to continue to stay here illegally. Americans want these people sent home. We hope the Supreme Court will continue to rein this in as soon as possible to restore proper constitutional order in our country. We'll take some questions. And here in our new media seat today, we have Jillian Michaels. She's a renowned personal health expert. I know all of you know her. I certainly do, watching fitness videos growing up. And a media powerhouse who continues to expand her reach with her podcast, Keeping It Real. Jillian, I know you're here today for the Make America Healthy Again event. We're proud to welcome you to the White House. Thanks for being in the briefing. Why don't you go ahead?
Thank you for having me. As a Maha mom yourself, how do you interpret the significance of this report in terms of delivering measurable health improvements for Americans and their kids, and what specific actions does the administration plan to take in response to it?
Sure. Well, thank you for the question. And again, thank you very much for being here. I would like to emphasize, we held a call earlier today with Secretary Kennedy, Secretary Rollins, Administrator Zeldin, and other officials at Health and Human Services to talk about the gravity of this report. When the president took office, he promised to make this country healthy again. And the president signed an executive order directing this commission. And now, less than 100 days later, the commission is delivering this report. It's another promise made and another promise kept. And the report identifies 4 major factors that are contributing to the rise in childhood chronic disease. Again, this is the first time the federal government has really recognized in a single report that we have a problem in our country. Our children are getting sicker, not healthier. This is not just a crisis, a health crisis, but it poses national security implications as well. And this administration is focused on ensuring we understand why. The 4 factors contributing to the report, as you will all hear from the president later, are number 1, poor diet, a robust discussion about ultra-processed food that are dominating our children's diets, environmental chemical exposure, plastics and other chemicals that are unfortunately a part of our daily American life. It talks about the lack of physical activity and chronic stress, and how technology-driven lifestyles are contributing to the decline of our children's physical and mental health. And then lastly, the report touches on the over-medicalization that's taking place in our American society, nowhere else in the world, but just right here in the United States of America. And the report directs the entire administration to understand why these issues are happening and what public policy can the administration implement to ensure that we are fostering a more healthy country for our children. So I'll leave it at that and let the president and his team speak more about this historic report later. But this should be good news for everyone. I don't care what your politics are. We should all agree that we want our children to be healthy and safe, and we want our food supply to be healthy and safe. We have the best farmers and ranchers in the world right here in the United States of America, and we have the best workers in the world. We have the best people in the world, but unfortunately we have a health crisis that's been plaguing us for too long, and this report speaks to the heart of it. You're welcome. Thanks for being here. Garrett, go ahead.
Caroline, you guys are very proud of your record on transparency. I have 2 transparency-related questions for you.
Sure.
On the president's dinner tonight, Will the White House commit to making a list of the attendees public so people can see who's paying for that kind of access to the president?
Well, as you know, Garrett, this question has been raised with the president. I have also addressed the dinner tonight. The president is attending it in his personal time. It is not a White House dinner. It's not taking place here at the White House. But certainly I can raise that question and try to get you an answer for it. Okay.
And on the Qatari aircraft, the Air Force has said they're going to classify all the information about the work that has to get done to bring it up to snuff to be Air Force One. Previous Air Force One contracts, including the one that the president entered into in 2018, are public. That's available knowledge. Will the White House commit to releasing who's doing that work and the cost of that work? I understand that some elements might be classified about specific systems, but will you commit to releasing that basic information so people can see ultimately what this costs?
Well, Garrett, as you know, that's a question for the Department of Defense and the United States Air Force, who is accepting this jet as part of their fleet.
Declassify anything he wants.
Well, you'll have to ask the Department of Defense and the United States Air Force, who is accepting this jet as part of its fleet. Peter.
The president can declassify anything that he wants. Has he looked to see if there are any records here that would contradict what we've been told about Joe Biden's decline?
He has not directed anyone, to my knowledge, to look into that, but surely I can ask him if he intends to. I think the president has spoken on this pretty extensively, and I have spoken about it extensively from this podium as well, how it was truly one of the worst political scandals this country has ever seen, that the previous administration covered up the decline in the former president's mental and physical ability. And it's now all coming out, but the American people knew the truth, and that's one of the many reasons why President Trump won the election on November 5th.
And President Trump says that he basically thinks unelected Biden staffers concealed his decline so that they could use the levers of power for their own personal gain.
Well, look, that's not just the president thinking that, Peter. There's a new book out. I don't know if any of you have heard about it. Again, a little bit too late, because the American people knew the truth on this from the very beginning. And there were reporters in this room, including some from your network, Peter, I'll give you a little bit of credit here, who have said that clearly Joe Biden's staffers were engaging in this cover-up. So this is common sense. This isn't the president making it up. These are facts that are now finally being revealed.
Right, and I'm not saying the president's making it up, but he specifically talks about the auto pen. He thinks that staffers were using this auto pen. Mm-hmm. Is there some kind of like a badge that you have to swipe to use an auto pen? Is there a record of that?
I can tell you here at this White House, the president signs any document that has legal implications. The president signs every executive order. He signs every proclamation. He signs pretty much every document that is needed for the president's signature, with the exception of maybe some letters to children. From what we have heard and seen, that was not the case in the previous administration, and the president is raising good questions that are worth looking into. And as for Maha, I'm going to take a sip of water, if that's okay with you guys. Go ahead.
Thanks, Caroline. Back to the presidential gala tonight. Did anyone in the White House or in the White House counsel's office advise the president against holding this sweepstakes, whereby people who spent the most money on his Trump coin would then have access to the president at this dinner?
Again, the president has been asked about this. He has addressed this. I have also stated previously from this podium that the president is abiding by all conflict of interest laws that are applicable to the president. And I think everybody, the American public, believe it's absurd for anyone to insinuate that this president is profiting off of the presidency. This president was incredibly successful before giving it all up to serve our country publicly. And not only has he lost wealth, but he also almost lost his life. He has sacrificed a lot to be here, and to suggest otherwise is frankly completely absurd.
Does the White House
Libby,
have
go
any
ahead.
concerns?
The fifth round of nuclear talks between Iran and the U.S. is going to take place on Friday in Rome. What is the president anticipating ahead of that? And if a deal doesn't come from that meeting, is he going to walk away?
Well, I'm glad you brought up Iran, because I do have an update. The president spoke to Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu today. They had a productive discussion. They discussed many things, including, of course, the tragic shooting that took place here in Washington, D.C. last night. But they also did talk about a potential deal with Iran, which the president believes is moving along in the right direction. And as the president told me, and he's told all of you, this deal with Iran could end in two ways. It could end in a very positive diplomatic solution, or it could end in a very negative situation for Iran. So that's why these talks are taking place later this week. Yamish, good to see you.
Hi, good. Thanks for taking the question.
Sure.
The president showed a video that he said showed more than 1,000 burial sites of white South Africans that he said were murdered. We know that that was not true and that the video wasn't showing that. So I wonder, why did the president choose to show that?
What's not true, Yamish?
It's not true that the video was showing a burial site. It is unsubstantiated that that's the case.
No, it is true that that video showed the crosses that represent.
Which is what the president claimed.
The video showed images of crosses in South Africa about white farmers who have been killed and politically persecuted because of the color of their skin. And those crosses are representing their lives. Those crosses are representing their lives in the fact that they are now dead and their government did nothing about it. Are you disputing that there's no...
I'm disputing the fact that the video showed what the president claimed it showed, because it did not show that. But even more, what I'm asking you is who at the White House...
No, it did show that. It showed white crosses representing people who have perished because of racial persecution.
Verifies the videos that the president shows, and what protocols are in place when there's unsubstantiated information being put out for the world and world leaders to show?
Yamish, what's unsubstantiated about the video? The video shows crosses that represent the dead bodies of people who were racially persecuted by their government. In fact, the Associated Press, of all places, has a picture of that very monument, and the caption from the Associated Press is, "Each cross marks a white farmer who has been killed in a farm murder." So it is substantiated, not just by that video and the physical evidence that everybody saw on display in the Oval Office, but also by another outlet in this room, the Associated Press. So you should take it up with them if you believe the claim is unsubstantiated, and that's a ridiculous line of questioning. John, go ahead. Go ahead, John.
Thank you, Carolyn. The big, beautiful bill now goes to the Senate.
Does, yes.
A lot of the Republican senators have promised amendments that will water this thing down dramatically. What is the president's level of tolerance for their amendments to water it down, and what will be the action taken for some of the amendments that the president does not want?
Sure. Well, the One Big Beautiful Bill is named the One Big Beautiful Bill for a reason, because it is a one big beautiful bill that encompasses just about everything this president could want for the American public. It delivers on so many of his core campaign promises. So surely we want to see those campaign promises signed into law. And as the president put in his Truth Social post this morning, and as he said to me, we can celebrate this past the House for a couple of hours, but now it's time for the Senate to get to work. The president has great relationship with Senate Majority Leader Thune, and of course so many friends on the Senate side of the Hill, and he's expecting them to get busy on this bill and send it to his desk as soon as possible. Phil.
Thank you. Given that the president said the other day the SALT cap, we don't want to benefit Democratic governors. If the Senate was to reduce that SALT cap or make any type of changes, would he support that, or is this a situation where done is beautiful and he just wants to pass it?
Well, look, it's a hypothetical question, obviously. Negotiations. Well, correct, and the bill passed, didn't it? So now it's off to the Senate where additional negotiations will take place, and we'll see how it goes. Michael.
Thank you, Caroline. Two questions on the beautiful bill. One of the campaign promises from President Trump was no tax on Social Security. Now, due to congressional rules, that wasn't able to be included in this bill. How does the president plan to follow through on that campaign promise?
Well, this bill did address taxes for our seniors. It actually allows them to take off significant money from their Social Security payments, get more money back, I should say, put more money in their pockets for various reasons. So this bill delivers on that promise. That's the view of the White House.
Secondly, you had two Republicans last night that voted against this bill, Congressman Massey and Davidson. Does the president think that they should be primaried?
I believe he does, and I don't think he likes to see grandstanders in Congress. What's the alternative? I would ask those members of Congress. Did they want to see a tax hike? Did they want to see our country go bankrupt? That's the alternative by them trying to vote no. And the president believes the Republican Party needs to be unified, and the vast majority of Republicans clearly are and are listening to the president. They are trusting in President Trump, as they should, because there's a reason he's sitting in this Oval Office. It's because he's the unequivocal leader of the Republican Party. Not just a president for Republicans, but all Americans. The president's approval rating is at an all-time high right now, and it's because he knows how to deliver. And Republicans like Thomas Massey and others should take note. Stephen.
Thank you, Caroline. Building on the question about Social Security, the bill includes the president's promises to address taxes on tips and overtime. Could you say his feelings about the income cap Is he satisfied where that landed? And also on a different matter, can you comment on the investigation that the Justice Department has into Andrew Cuomo?
As for the first question, the president is clearly satisfied where the bill landed because it passed. Again, now it has to go to the Senate, so changes could certainly be made. As for your second question, I would defer you to the Department of Justice. Christian.
Yeah, thanks, Caroline. Can you explain the decision to totally shake up FEMA leadership just a week before hurricane season?
You'd have to ask the Department of Homeland Security in terms of leadership, but certainly the administration, and I know the National Security Council here at the White House is monitoring storms and natural disasters that are happening across the country at all times. We're briefed on those. The administration is briefed on those, and Secretary Noem is leading that effort for sure. Go ahead.
Gears, Caroline.
Yeah, just following up on Warren Davidson, I wanted to read you his quote that he posted online. While I love many things in the bill, promising someone else will cut spending in the future does not cut spending. Deficits do matter, and this bill grows them. Why should that get a Republican primary?
This bill saves $1.6 trillion for the American taxpayer. It saves more than any bill that has ever passed Capitol Hill has. In fact, by double. The next bill saved $800 billion. This bill saves $1.6 trillion. So this is a very good bill for the American people, the American taxpayer. And I believe, as an outlet put it with a headline this morning, it might have been Politico actually, they wrote that the American people are going to be flush with cash when this thing is signed into law. And that's a good thing for American taxpayers. Sure, go ahead.
Caroline, what is the president doing to win Senate passage by July 4th? And does that include work to eliminate carried interest and make business tax cuts permanent? Where is he on those issues?
Well, look, this bill literally just passed the House of Representatives. So now our team is suiting up for discussions with the Senate side of Capitol Hill. The president, again, said this morning he hopes to see this bill at his desk as soon as possible. And he'll be engaged in the process to get it through the Senate, just like he was to get it through the House of Representatives.
What kind of assurances did he give the Freedom Caucus members to kind of ensure that this would get through last night? Was changes to Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac part of that equation, changes administratively to Medicaid as well?
Well, I was in that meeting yesterday with the president and House Freedom Caucus, and he told them how he wants to be a cheerleader for them, a cheerleader for the Republican Party, and for the country. And Republicans faced a pivotal moment yesterday. They could have voted to bankrupt the country and increase taxes by $4 trillion, or they could vote for this one big, beautiful bill which cuts taxes and saves American taxpayers money. And he put that proposition before them, and clearly they heeded the call because the bill passed last night. Sure.
Caroline, so on the
or this morning, rather. Every day is going into the next. Go ahead.
The Netanyahu call. Just curious, did the president raise the flow of aid into Gaza? Is he happy with where that situation is right now?
Not to my knowledge, but I can certainly go back and check.
And did you have any reaction to the Supreme Court's ruling about the religious charter school today, as well as Justice Coney Barrett's decision to recuse herself?
We'll get you an answer on that case specifically. Sure.
You mentioned the president has a good relationship with Leader Thune. Has he talked to him specifically about the plan to get this through the Senate? Does he plan, or is he going to reach out to Republicans who have voiced concerns?
Not to my knowledge. Has he spoken to Leader Thune this morning? He very well could have. I just wasn't briefed on that call. We can go back and check for you. The president did speak to Prime Minister Netanyahu this morning. He also had a call with President Sheinbaum this morning. He was receiving his intelligence briefing. He's been very busy all morning. But again, he certainly intends to remain active and engaged in these negotiations with the United States Senate to get this bill done.
And just following up on the dinner tonight, you mentioned this is not a White House dinner, but the president is always the president, and the Trump family is making money off of this. So can you just explain, how is this not the president using the office to enrich himself?
All of the president's assets are in a blind trust, which is managed by his children. And I would argue one of the many reasons that the American people reelected this president back to this office is because he was a very successful businessman before giving it up to publicly serve our country. Reagan.
Thanks, Caroline. Last week, the president told Brett Baer that he trusts his people, but thinks that the official narrative on his assassination attempts are, quote, a little bit odd. FBI Deputy Director Dan Bongino said days later that there's no conspiracy to find, and as he put it, quote, the there that you're looking for is not there. My question is the president personally satisfied with the investigations into the attempts on his life? And does he agree with Deputy FBI Director, or does he think there's more to it?
Well, in the lead up to your question, you answered your own question with the president's own words, and I'll leave it at that. Sure, go ahead, Haley.
Thank you, Carolyn.
Haley, go ahead.
Oh, thanks. I wanted to follow up on his call with Prime Minister Netanyahu in his effort to reach a deal with Iran. Does he feel like he has the Prime Minister's support in this effort at this point, or did the Prime Minister raise concerns to him in this conversation?
I won't get further into the private discussion between the president and the prime minister, but surely they have a good relationship, one that's built on transparency and trust. And the president has made it very clear to not just Prime Minister Netanyahu, but also the world, that he wants to see a deal with Iran struck, if one can be struck. He does not want to have to take the latter option, the more severe and negative option. He wants to see a deal. The president is a deal maker, and he believes strongly in diplomacy, and he's made that clear to the prime minister, but also to all of you and, frankly, the rest of the world. Mary.
Thank you, Caroline. Two questions, one on the terror attack last night and then another on the big, beautiful bill. Do you or President Trump have a message to politicians like Ilhan Omar, who only this morning explicitly avoided condemning this act of terror?
It's despicable. And frankly, we have seen a rise in anti-Semitic protests, of pro-Hamas protests, of terrorist sympathizers. We saw them on our college campuses, and we've seen the Democrat Party turn a blind eye and in some cases actually embrace such anti-Semitic illegal behavior. And that's why this administration has done more than any administration in history to crack down on anti-Semitism. As you know, in January, when the president took office, he signed a new executive order to combat anti-Semitism. He created a commission focused on doing just that. The Justice Department announced their task force as well. The Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, has revoked thousands of student visas from campuses where these pro-Hamas terrorist campus agitators and violent protests took place. And we've also withheld funding from those very campuses as well in an effort to combat anti-Semitism. So the president's made it very clear that such hatred will have no place in our country.
Thank you. And then on the big, beautiful bill, I know there's a provision that the House included that defunds Planned Parenthood, not only because of the fact that it's the nation's largest abortion provider, but also because it's, I think, the biggest distributor of transgender hormones right now, even to minors, according to Live Action. So is the president committed to making sure that provision stays in the Senate?
The president has maintained a very clear commitment to ensuring that this administration and the American people's tax dollars are not funding any institution. That includes hospital systems that are funding the chemical castration and mutilation of children. We're not going to tolerate taxpayer dollars going to such efforts. Sure.
Thanks, Caroline. You mentioned at the top of the briefing that the migrants were to be sent to a third country. I was just wondering, could you share any more on, which countries the administration has struck these agreements with and what that agreement with South Sudan specifically looks like?
Well, first of all, I won't litigate foreign policy from the podium, but what I will reiterate is the absurdity of this ruling from a district court judge in Boston who is just creating new immigration laws out of thin air. This administration, let me be very clear, because there have been a lot of fake headlines about this deportation flight over the last 2 days. This administration has complied with all court orders. And the individuals whose names I just revealed and whose criminal histories I just spoke of that are on this flight, every single one of them had a final order of removal from our country. In fact, one of these violent illegal criminals had a final order of removal given to him in 1999. It's 2 years after I was born. This individual, this criminal, has been living in our country for an entire generation. And now we have a district court judge who is trying to tell the president and the Secretary of State and the Secretary of Homeland Security that an illegal criminal murderer who's been hiding in the shadows in our country for nearly 30 years cannot be deported from United States soil. That not only is undermining our entire immigration system, but it is also undermining our diplomatic negotiations with countries around the world. How are countries on this earth supposed to trust the United States government and these good faith diplomatic negotiations when these countries accept these repatriation flights? How are they supposed to trust us if we have radical district court judges who are going to say, no, you can't do that? And now these illegal criminal murderers and rapists have to sit in Djibouti with our ICE agents who now have to sit there for more than 2 weeks without the proper resources. This judge is not only undermining our immigration system, undermining our foreign policy and our national security, but this judge is undermining the safety of the ICE agents who are putting their lives on the line to remove this list of illegal criminal terrorists. It's truly despicable what's happening in our court system, and the president and this administration hope that the Supreme Court will do what it needs to do to rein in these liberal activist judges. And the Supreme Court has already said it is well within the president's purview to dictate foreign policy, and a radical district court judge should not be getting in the way of that. We'll see you all later at the Maha event. Thank you.
Thanks, Caroline.
Well, she's making these things real quick lately, hasn't she? Ooh, she's real quick in getting these things done. And I don't even know why Caitlin Collins even shows up anymore, because she doesn't even raise her hand. That's very interesting. Not even raising her hand. It's like she has to be there, but doesn't want to be there. I don't know. We'll see. In any event, gives me time to Reagan Reese from the White House Correspondents' Room there. She will be on at 2:30, so that gives me time to cover some stuff with you guys. But before we get there, let me take a break and talk to you about, let's see here. We're going to talk to you about the Trump red knife. And best way I can do it is that great video that Michael put out.
Fanfare family, I'm B. Michael Nace, one of the members of Barry Cunningham's channel. One of the things Barry advertises on his channel is the Trump knife. But Barry doesn't really get so much justice, because Barry apparently is not the knife guy that I am. I've got thousands of knives around my house. But this knife is really awesome. One, check this out. This is a power-assisted folding knife with a liner lock. A glass breaker at the tip, the liner lock in the middle, so it won't close on you until you push the liner lock in the middle. Push it and it will fold. This knife is actually quite awesome. And I'm a knife collector. I've been collecting knives for 30 years. This is an amazing knife, and you can get it barryknife.com. Barry Cunningham, he can tell you how to get it. I want you to push it to his channel, fanfare.com. This knife is amazing. It's sharp, it's heavy duty. As a matter of fact, it's almost too heavy to carry in the pocket. You'd have to put it on your belt or whatever, but it's a heavy duty knife, and it's really nice. So Barry, to you, one of your family members, B. Michael Nace from Fanfare, amazing knife.
All right, so he's talking about the Trump red knife, which I have right here. This is the Trump red knife as he's talking about it, as Michael said, and I'm not going to even try to use that thing to flip out the blade, because I am not a knife guy, and I do not want to cut myself with this quite sharp knife. It's very, very sharp. It's a decent sized knife, as you can see. You can definitely clip it onto your pants, or, you know, if a lady wants to put it inside of her purse. It's heavy. It's got some weight to it. It's not a flimsy knife whatsoever. Again, it's got the glass breaker here in case you need to break a glass. It's also got a blade inside as I shut this thing. It also has a blade right there so you can cut your way through a seat belt or something in case you get stuck. This knife, you can get it, and I'm not scamming you, it's the actual thing. It's free. This knife is absolutely 100% free. All you have to do is pay a quick little small shipping charge of, I think it's like 12 or 13 bucks, and this knife normally retails for $70, and you can get it for $13. It's made available just here to the Fanfare family. If you guys are the first time watching, we've got a few partners that are doing exclusive deals with people who watch our videos, so feel free to subscribe, because these are the type of deals. I got another one I'm going to show you later. Most of you know what's coming. But this deal here, just go ahead and click on the QR code right there and pay a small shipping fee, and that's it. You get this $70 knife for free. This is just Patriot Addict's way of saying thank you for supporting President Trump and being a part of this moment in history. Just go to the QR code here. You get this knife that normally sells for $70. just for the cost of shipping. Or you can go to berryknife.com if you can't access the QR code. berryknife.com. All right, so let's continue where I was. Before that, let me have a few comments about what we just saw. I don't know who these people think they represent. And when I say these people, I'm talking about the media. The media seems to ask questions, and it becomes more obvious that they're asking questions to benefit them. I don't even think it benefits their station or their newspaper or their website. It's to benefit them. And one of the first things you learn in media or marketing is everything you should do should be for the benefit of those others, people who will be watching, people who will be reading. Nobody. I mean, if you took a poll, we took a poll earlier about what color shirt I should wear, because people had an opinion on it. But, overwhelmingly people said, I don't care what color shirt. So it's going to be, I don't care. These people should survey the room. Who cares about the Qatari jet? Which Americans do you know give a crap about this jet from Qatar? See, this is where the media completely misses everything. They don't understand. Even when I'm showing things like this knife right here, and I ask people, if you want to buy to do this, what's the most important thing that people are going to want to know about this knife? Well, normally the first most important thing that they're going to want to know is, how much is it? It doesn't seem like people in the media understand what information their viewers actually want to hear. Nobody gives a crap about the jet. It doesn't affect me at all. I could care less. I don't care if he buys a Concorde that's been in mothballs. I don't care. They don't seem to get that in terms of serving the people you're supposed to serve. The information that we all want on a daily basis isn't what the media is showing us. Now, they should know, very simply, a lot of people, a big hot button on this entire big, beautiful bill is about Social Security. There should have been 20 questions about Social Security. Nope. Really. There should have been questions about why did President Trump and the South African president have that combative meeting, and what was the follow-up? Has anyone talked about what's the next step? Were they shown the door? Was it like Zelensky? You don't get any lunch. Get out? What happened next? Nope, nobody. Yamiche Alcindor, she comes in and goes, well, those 1,000 crosses, it's unsubstantiated. By who? Well, they didn't die there. I don't think Trump meant that they died on that spot. It wasn't like they got nuked. And obviously that wasn't 1,000 graves. It was a representation of the dead people. And it seems like anything having... Why does that matter to you, Yamiche? Why does it matter to you when... What you didn't hear anybody talking about, I guess Peter Ducey asked one question, is what's up with this auto pen thing? Why are you not digging into this? Ooh, because you can't talk about that. So everything that people want to know, you don't talk about. Why is it that these judges are acting the way they do? She talked about it. They don't talk about it. They completely missed the boat. They don't have any idea what people want. That's why their viewership is down. And that's why people like me and Benny and Patrick McDavid and all these other people, Tim Castor, kicking their ass. Because they don't tell people what they want to know. It'd be like you guys tuning in here and me talking about, I don't know, the Miami Dolphins and who they drafted and what the schedule looks like. You don't care. That's not why you're here. But they don't understand that. So let's talk about the big, beautiful bill. We did a little bit of that. I'm going to go back to the video, but I got to talk to you about what President Trump, since she mentioned about this judge. Let's listen or take a look at what President Trump talked about this idiot judge in Boston. A federal judge in Boston who knew absolutely nothing about the situation or anything else has ordered the 8 of the most violent criminals on earth curtail their journey to South Sudan and remain in Djibouti. I always loved the name of that town or city, whatever, country. He would not allow these monsters to proceed to their final destination. This is not the premise under which I was elected president, which was to protect our nation. The judges are absolutely out of control. They're hurting our country, and they know nothing about particular situations or what they're doing. And this must change, quote, immediately. Hopefully the Supreme Court of the United States will put an end to the, the quagmire that has been caused by the radical left. If this has not worked out quickly, and the world is watching, our country will be under siege again, with hundreds of thousands of hardened criminals breaking down the walls. We are also forced to leave behind, in order to watch these hardened thugs, a large number of ICE officers who would otherwise be in the United States protecting our citizens. So, I'm going to say it again. President Trump is almost like a neon light. It's coming. So when I say things like, and I had my buddy who's in law enforcement officer up in Central Florida, he said, you're right, it's probably coming. Maybe not how you think, but it's coming. When I say it's coming, I'm talking about Andrew Jackson. I'm talking about suspending habeas. I'm talking about going all the way and having the military solve these. Now understand, when I talk about it, the military is the only way, I'm not talking about martial law. You can't come out of your house and you're going to have Humvees with, what do you call them? What are those things? Tanks or anything? No, I'm not talking about any of that. The military being the only way is going to be very surgical. Because the only way the military can actually do anything is, at this point, they would have to, which he's already declared, certain people, certain criteria to be, quote, enemies. He's already done that. He's already called an invasion. He's got certain criteria in place. Go look it up. Go look at the different things, and it's not hard. Let me just show you something. A lot of people don't look, and because not every one of these, executive orders do everybody talk about. The media doesn't even talk about them. I want you to go here, and let's look at this and see which. Okay, go to the White House. You can go to whitehouse.gov and look under presidential actions. And there's a whole bunch of them. I mean, he's just been going on and on. There's probably, maybe 200 presidential actions. Save yourself and look at things like type in the search bar, enemies. And these things come up. Invocation of the Aliens Enemies Act regarding the invasion of the United States by Nicaragua. Designated cartels and other organizations as foreign terrorist organizations, and especially designated global terrorists. Let's see. Let's look at how many times he has mentioned the term invasion. All right. So we've got strengthening and unleashing America's law. Pursue criminals and protect innocents, protecting American communities from criminal aliens, military mission for sealing the border of the United States and repelling invasions. There's more down here. Invocation, I just read that one. Expanding migrant operation centers, guaranteeing states protections against invasion. Oh, there's 2 pages. Another one. Securing our borders, clarifying the military's role in protecting the territorial integrity of the United States, declaring a national emergency at the southern border, and that was done on day 1. Do yourself a favor and start looking through some of these executive actions and see if you don't realize at that point, after reading these things, that he has basically laid the breadcrumbs out there so that if he needs to go ahead and queue up the military, it's already been done. It's already basically been put in motion. So this whole thing with the auto pen, and Ed Martin, I don't know if you've been watching the stuff on Ed Martin. I'll cover this more tonight, but I just want to let you know it's in play. And what I mean by limited action, the limited action would basically be to try these people in a military tribunal, not round up people and have tanks going through the street. You see, the statute of limitations on some of this stuff is probably way expired, except there's one crime that doesn't have a statute of limitations. Actually, there's two. I think murder is one of them as well. But you can check this yourself as well. Hold on. Let me put it up. Pull it up. So you can look this up yourself. And you will say, oh, I didn't know that. But I just found out today on Barry's show. What did you find out? You found out, let me see if I can show this so it fits in a window. Everybody can see it. Okay, 1 second. I always have to find out which window I'm going to use, because when I put it in the window, it kind of disappears, and here it is. All right, we're going to use this window. In case you didn't know, remember the President of the United States yesterday used the word treason a couple times. Ed Martin using treason. They're using treason. Quote, there is no statute of limitations for the crime of treason in the United States. This means that individuals can be charged with treason even if a significant amount of time has passed since the alleged treasonous act. This applies to both federal and state treason laws. So as you arm yourself with more information, understand he can reach way back if he can allege and then hopefully prove it in a military tribunal, which would be different than in any courtroom. So if he were to allege treason against some people, it doesn't matter how far back he wants to go. And then using the definition of what treason is and how he can apply it, well, imagine going all the way back to, I don't know, 9/11. This thing has wide-ranging power if he were to actually pull the trigger on this. And I think at that point people would freak out when they realize there's no getting away from it. If he's in there now and he's actually got Cash and Dan and Pam really looking in depth at this stuff, that would be a reason why they've clammed up. Everybody keeps wondering, they're not doing anything. Man, if you're going to come out the gate with treason against somebody, you better have that zipped up. You will get ripped apart. You got one shot. You're about to face a Nolan Ryan fastball, and you better be ready, because if you mess up on a treason charge, they're gonna crucify him. So I would understand. Maybe that's what they're doing. Maybe they're concocting a complete case against a number of people, looking at everything, nook and cranny. What did you do here? Did you do this with China? Did you? Can you imagine that case? It makes Epstein's case look like this. I mean, it makes it look like insignificant if you've been doing certain things, which it's possible they were. So just understand that. Little white envelopes at Bush's funeral come to mind. Yeah, this could get really squirrely, really squirrely. So as I said last night, I'm not even looking at the Epstein stuff anymore. Doesn't really matter. I don't want it to be my Qatari jet. Don't let Epstein be your jet from Qatar. Don't focus over here when there's so much more in front of us. And I literally just saw a video, which I'll cover tonight. I should have saved all of this for tonight, where Ed Martin, the fact that people are mentioning the word treason. When have you heard your politicians, presidents, prosecutors, when have you even heard them mention treason? It's like a no word. It's like the N word. You don't say that. And now they're openly saying, yeah, this might have been some treason. And so in case you're, I'm going to save the rest for tonight, because if I go too far, I'm going to go into Reagan and interrupt when I still have some stuff to talk about the big, beautiful bill. So let's hold on to that till tonight. Let's table it until 7:30 tonight, and we'll talk all about treason and what could be going on behind the scenes. And I'm not going to be saying it from my perspective. I'm going to show you some things, and you guys can take it from there and do your own research. Maybe between now and then, you can begin doing your own research on treason and see, check it out. All right, so let's talk about the big, beautiful bill and start here.
On this vote, the yeas are 215, the nays are 214, with one answering present. The bill is passed. USA, USA.
And as you notice, there's a funeral going on the left side of the room, and they're wandering aimlessly like they don't know what just happened. This is not America that you know, where the other side just is, what do we do now? We lied as much as we possibly can. We got the media to say everything bad about this bill. We've lied, gone to, and then we got nothing. And they're wandering around aimlessly.
There were a number of pivotal moments. We have 220 Republicans in the House Republican Conference, and lots of different opinions. They represent very different districts around the country with very different interests. But the principle and the philosophy is always the same. Everybody's conservative. We believe in limited government, and we believe in individual freedom and the rule of law and peace through strength and fiscal responsibility and free markets and human dignity, the things that are all wrapped into this bill. And so I would say there was a lot of pivotal moments. One day I might actually write a book about the last year of my life and trying to get this thing over the line. But I'll say, look, I'm just going to say, I give glory to God. I mean, there's a lot of prayer that brought this together. I'm just going to be very blunt about it. There was a few moments over the last week when it looked like the thing might fall apart, and I went to the little chapel over here and got on my knees and prayed that these guys would have wisdom and stamina and discernment. And that's the secret here, and teamwork and mutual respect that everybody has for one another. And I think that's what defines the Republican Party. It's a great day to be an American. It's a great day to be a Republican. Yeah, go ahead.
Are you still going to go with the Senate? They're likely going to change it a lot. It's fair to do this again and kind of...
No, all the senators, every one of them have promised me they're not going to change anything in our bill. Reese, no. I was honored to be at the Senate Republican luncheon on Tuesday. And, I encourage them to remember that we have a very delicate equilibrium that we reached on here. A lot of work went into this to find exactly the right balance. And you all saw how perilous that was over the last week as it developed. And I encourage our Senate colleagues to think of this as a one-team effort, as we have, and to modify this as little as possible, because it will make it easier for us to get it over the line ultimately and finished and get it to the president's desk by July 4th. And that's a big thing. The reason we were so aggressive...
So some of you have asked, why is it going to take until July 4th? Well, these people don't work very hard, and there's a bunch of parliamentary procedures, and you got the Memorial Day weekend coming up, and then they're going to come back and go back and forth in committees in the Senate. But the good thing you have to remember, which I'll delve into a little bit more in about 5 or 6 minutes, is that it does not take 60 votes. Because it's a reconciliation bill, which is very complicated, but you only need 51. So, at this point, with a 53 to 47 margin in the Senate, you can afford to lose, 3 people. And then if it's 50-50, then J.D. Vance can come in and break the tie. So he can afford to lose 3 nuts. Probably Tom Tillis, who else? Tom Tillis, Lisa Murkowski, Susan Collins, the usual idiots. But it's a 53-47. All they got to do is get to 51.
And I know some of y'all smiled and probably mocked me a little bit when I said early on we were going to do this by Memorial Day. You didn't believe it. I know you didn't, Reese. Most of you didn't. But the reason we did that was not because out of pride of authorship or because we were trying to, raise some banner. We did it because we need to get this relief to the American people as soon as possible. And President Trump made these promises on the campaign trail, and we did as well. And we wanted, as Jim Jordan likes to say, we're going to do what we said we were going to do. And that's what this bill represents. And so the timetable is important. We also have the debt ceiling approaching. We've got the relief that the people need. And the sooner they feel that relief, the better. So we did our job, rolled up our sleeves, got it done. We're really proud of that effort. One more question. Yes, ma'am.
Is there anything that the Senate might be considering in terms of changing this bill that you all will not accept?
I'm not going to draw any red lines. Look, I told them there's a lot of different opinions over there as there is here. They have a small margin as we do. Let
me explain what he just said there. The lady asked the question, is there anything that they may stick in that you guys don't want? This is why it will take so long. The Senate now takes the bill that the House gives them. And the Senate looks at it and goes, yeah, but you know what? I want to put this in. And I want to put this in. And then I want to put this in. And the problem that happens is, as soon as you want to put this in, then it has to go back to the House. They have to vote on it again before it can be given to the president. It won't have to go back to the Senate if they accept it. But it can go back like a tennis ball until they decide what are the final terms. I can tell you right now. I can tell you on May 22nd at 2:11 p.m., there is no possible way that this thing lands in the Senate and 51 people go, okay, we're good with this, let's go. Nope, not going to happen. Everybody's going to want their 2 cents. So President Trump's going to have to go now, like he did to the Congress. He's going to have to go in the Senate and start beating people over the head. Because everybody's going to want to have their little piece of the pie. But instead of having to convince 220 people, he's only got to convince probably 6. When I say when it get buried, it takes 51. Yeah, but there's probably 45 baked in. There's probably 45 votes already done. It's probably 6 or 7 people that he's got to go talk to. You could probably name them. Tom Tillis, Lisa Murkowski, Susan Collins. Who else is it? Rand Paul. Oops, sorry about that. I'll let you listen to this while I go take care of my dog chasing the lawn guy.
3-vote margin. By the way, I just want you to know for the record, we really had 217 votes this morning. Andrew Garbarino did not make it in time. He fell asleep in the back. No kidding. I know. I'm going to just strangle him. But he's my dear friend. And then David Schweikert was going to vote and slipped his card in right at the last minute. So it looks like a razor-thin margin, 215 to 214 and one present. It was really 217, okay? We all put a footnote somewhere in history on that thing. They're both going to go on record saying that's how they would have voted if they got the card in time. Thank you so much for being here. Bless you all. Thanks to all these guys. Thank you.
We're very pleased that this one big, beautiful bill was finally passed. Really.
Okay, so I'm going to come back in like 3 minutes. I'm going to play my gold spot because I got to go deal with something outside. The dog is barking, and I will be right back, and we'll jump right back into this. We're in a very volatile time right now. There's plenty of financial uncertainty. Now is not the time to be speculative. And I'm also speaking from a personal perspective. I'm buying income-producing real estate, and I'm buying gold and silver. A lot of people don't know the difference between the economy and the stock market. And too many people listen to the news and social media. That'll get you in trouble. Let's face it. It's obvious that a lot of people have an agenda they're not telling you about. Right now, your best bet is stability. And that means you might need to build a hedge against global volatility. May I recommend gold and silver to you? Real gold and real silver, not paper, not certificates, actual gold and silver. What gold and silver can give you is absolute peace of mind. A stock is only as good as the company behind it. It's merely a piece of paper. One of the things I can tell you is that many people are finding out the hard way that some of their investments were built on quicksand. Gold will never be worth zero. Silver will never be worth zero. If you want to calm some of your fears, give my friends at Lear Capital a call today at 800-601-5430 or go to learberry.com. Just so you know, Lear Capital has over 27 years of experience, thousands of 5-star reviews and over $5 billion in trusted transactions. And Lear is the only gold company with a 24-hour risk-free purchase guarantee. You don't pay unless you're 100% satisfied. So go to learberry.com. If you want peace of mind, give my friends at Lear Capital a call at 800-601-5430. Or look down here below and go to learberry.com. And don't forget to ask about getting up to $15,000 in free gold or silver with a qualifying purchase. Don't wait. Do it now. Nobody knows what tomorrow holds. Be safe. I just want to say thank you to the Fanfare community. And if you're new here, I'd like to take a moment and welcome you. If you watch my videos, you've probably realized at this point that this isn't your usual podcast. The difference is that every single day I try to make this show an open conversation amongst friends. You see, I believe that speaking to friends, here and in your own circle offline, is the best way to push back against all the lies being told by the Democrats and the media. I encourage people in this community to welcome each other, and in doing so become a source of support for those seeking to unplug from the matrix. If you'd like to communicate on a deeper level, I invite you to subscribe to the channel, but if you'd really like to surround yourself with like-minded patriots, join our free and private X group by going to fanfareshop.org/group. When you join this free group, a few things will happen. One, if you haven't used X before, you can use X without venturing into the sewer that it sometimes can be. Two, you can share content with friends that you meet here. 3, you will get notified every time I go live, so you can't count on YouTube notifications. And 4, and this might be most important, you get content that I can't share on YouTube or Rumble. So please take a moment and join our free and private X group. Just go to fanfareshop.org/group. Remember, it's members only. There are 16,000 plus people in that group right now, getting close to 17,000. To join our free and private members only X group, just go to fanfareshop.org/group. We'll see you there.
Welcome back to Fanfare with Barry Cunningham.
Hello, and thank you for giving me that opportunity to go take care of the lawn guy and grab the dog and get back into this. All right, so let's listen to what a couple people had to say about the passage of the big, beautiful bill.
The speaker shows how heroic and incredible he is to keep continuing to pull rabbits out of a hat. He worked hand in glove with President Trump and our leadership team and so many from the White House to get everyone to yes, just about. I mean, it was a very close vote, but obviously.
So one of the things I want to point your attention to, and you can see it on your screen right there, the Democrats must completely hate America. You're telling me that 212 people, every single one of them, not one went against the family. Every single person voted against this bill. I saw this by, I believe it was, Stephen Miller, and he pointed it out, and I think this is something that each one of you should be pointing out. Every single Democrat just voted against the largest middle-class tax cut in history. That's a lot to just let sink in. How bad must you hate Americans? I could see maybe 80 of them, maybe 100 of them said, no, we don't want tax cuts. Every single one, which means every single person who lives in one of those districts that's a Democrat. You now have people who supposedly represent you are saying, nope, we don't want it. You are no longer being represented by the person you elected. You are now being represented by the machine, and the machine will tell you what's good for you. There are people in blue districts who can't possibly believe this is happening. That their elected officials said, nope, we don't want to give you a tax cut. Why don't you want to give them a tax cut? Because it might hurt the newcomers. And there's people in these districts like, I don't care, get me the tax cut. Well, it might, you don't understand, they're going to defund Planned Parenthood. I don't care. It doesn't affect me. I voted for you to advocate for my best interest, not these stupid little pocket ideologies that you have. So when you're talking to your friends and your family and different people who might be, I'm not going to say on the left, but who are Democrats, this is something that you should be able to show them. He's going to bark again. You should be able to show them, whoever it is, and now you can feel 100% comfortable. You can say to them, I don't care where you live in the country. Doesn't matter if you live in a little pocket of Iowa that's blue versus New York or California. It doesn't matter. No one in the country has been represented by the Democrat Party. And so that's an easy discussion point. Hey, listen, would you like to have less taxes? Yeah. Well, how come you voted for someone who doesn't agree with you? And when you take it to that deep local level, I'm like, hey, would you like better, this and this and this? Yeah, I'd love it. Then why did you vote for somebody who doesn't want to give that to you? Every single person you know, relative, coworker, friend, who is a Democrat, just got the shaft by the person they elected. It was unanimous. Unanimous. Nobody who's a Democrat would see any of this stuff, but luckily Trump's doing it for both parties.
Narrow majority. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and I think that was the pitch of the speaker. We have to do what the American people asked us to do in electing President Trump and keeping our majority and creating a majority in the Senate. It goes to the Senate now, as you know, Jackie, and we'll see what happens up there. There's a lot in this bill. I mean, we are going to have the biggest tax cuts. That's the renewal of the Trump tax cuts plus more, border security, common sense, unleashing American energy. We're going to have so many things in this bill that are going to be really important. It's just one step. We have another shot at reconciliation to do even more. So I caution members when they think we're going to get everything in the bill. We have another chance, and we can fill in some of the blanks. But it has been an arduous task. A lot of late nights, a lot of days with the Ways and Means Committee, particularly the Energy and Commerce Committee. All our chairs worked so hard and stayed up really late, night after night, to make sure that we met to the best we could the demands of each of the members that we got to yes on this bill.
And this bill will...
And just to let you know, she's absolutely telling the truth. Like I said, Ashley had representative from Florida, Kat Kamak, was due today. And the woman has spent almost 36 hours up working on this bill. And she's pregnant. It's like, okay, go get some rest. You did a good job. We'll talk when you get back. I mean, so, yeah, it got done. And every single person you know who's a Democrat basically was represented as that they don't want a tax break. They don't want any of this good stuff.
Debt and deficits. It includes $1.6 trillion. It will probably move up closer to $2 trillion by the time it's scored based on changes that were made in the last day with conversations with conservatives. So this is a very, very important look. We've had a culture of fiscal futility in this country going on 30 years. We haven't seen anything like this since 1997, adjusted for inflation with the work requirements in 1997. That was an $800 billion bill. This is a nearly $2 trillion mandatory savers. We haven't seen anything like this. It's history. And so what we've been trying to do over the last week is explain to the country the extent to which this is getting us moving again, not just in economic growth and the policies that the president ran on, but actually cutting and saving mandatory savings, which this town has been unwilling to do. So I think what you're seeing as it pertains to the bill is a lot of misinformation. And as it becomes clear the magnitude of what is being accomplished, people are going to start to...
All right, so as you read through this bullet point list here, permanent provisions for 2017 tax cuts, so those will be made permanent. Child tax credit boost to $2,500 for 4 years. Pass-through business deduction boost to 23% permanently. Many of you may be 1099 employees. You may have a sub-S LLC, but they're making the pass-through business deduction 23%. So some of you are like, what in the hell is a pass-through business deduction? Like I said, there are rules that you have not been taught. There are rules that help you avoid taxes. And remember, avoid and evade are two different things. You are encouraged to avoid taxes by taking something like the pass-through business deduction. No tax on tips and overtime. Enhanced deductions for seniors to $4,000 for 4 years. I'm going to explain that probably after the interview with Reagan Reese, but those of you who are concerned about no tax on Social Security, they put a pill in there that's going to make it a lot more palatable if you understand it. And then the other one was the $40,000 SALT cap. They raised that to get it done, and SALT, as you know, is the state tax that the blue states add on, and Trump was trying to fight it so that there would be no deduction for SALT taxes, but they got a $40,000 cap. So we'll get into that.
To really understand how much has been accomplished, and let's get it done in the Senate.
So what element of the big, beautiful bill do you think is most important to growth? Is it deregulation? Is it tariff revenue? Is it extension of the tax cuts? I recognize they're all very important, but what's most important in terms of the catalyst for growth?
Maria, you're asking me to choose amongst my children. They are all very important. I'm in charge of the deregulatory agenda on behalf of the president. But I think that all of them are being exponentially furthered in this bill. And I think what is really an important story that we will keep talking about is the extent to which we have ended fiscal irresponsibility and futility by not being able to pass big reductions in mandatory savings that make total sense. A work requirement, it makes total sense, and the American people are going to hear more about those details. Yes, and I think that the storyline with regard to the spending reductions it's historic. This is the first time that we've seen anything like this in 30 years, not since the 1997 Balanced Budget Agreement. And what this bill includes is nearly $2 trillion by the time it gets updated for last-minute changes to get House conservatives across the finish line, nearly $2 trillion in mandatory savings reforms to improve Medicaid, to make sure there's a work requirement, to be able to get the labor force participation rate up, to get people who...
Okay, hey, he's going fast. He's going fast. Okay, so you're going to increase Medicaid by decreasing Medicaid, because you're taking all these people off the rolls and you're going to make these people qualify for it. Meaning, there's a job requirement. There should be no problem with that. I can't even imagine. I could not even imagine. It was just so not a part of my personality, and it's probably not a part of your personality. How many people do you know in your life, in your circle, relatives, friends, co-workers? How many people do you know are so slovenly that they would rather have you pay their bills than go to work? To participate in America, to give something to this country, and to obtain revenue for it. There are people, 7+ million people, who choose not even to participate in the workforce and want you to pay their bills. I don't have it in me. I couldn't do it. I couldn't sit home and just say, hey, pay me. 2 reasons. One, I just wasn't raised that way. Maybe that's a problem. Maybe people weren't raised by parents to know, get your ass out of bed and go to work. Number 2, probably even more so than number 1, is there is no way that the government is going to give me the lifestyle that I would want. Imagine the lifestyle you would have if you just choose not to work and let the government take care of you. Give me my food stamps and my bus pass and my Obama phone, and also give me my Medicaid. Okay, so I'll give you all that. You get all that. Then what? How are you living? Yeah, maybe you're doing some stuff on the side, which you may get caught for, so you're basically saying you're breaking the law, but I don't think you're doing anything on the side for the most part because you're too flippin' lazy. Oh, don't call them lazy, that's racist. I didn't say anything about race. I'm saying someone who's willing to sit on the sidelines and watch from the bleachers while you pay them. What kind of life experience do you think they have? You think they get to go out to dinner once or twice a week? Nah. Maybe unless it's McDonald's. You think they get to go on vacation? Nope. You think they actually go to a store and buy new clothes and new shoes? Now again, I'm not talking about the thieves. I'm talking about the people who just don't want to do anything. They can't even get their update for the next version of Call of Duty. What's the quality of life that you have if you rely on the government? And there's some people who are fine with that. If I get $2,500 a month and I get to stay home, I'm good. That's not the lifestyle I want to live. Probably for the most of you, that's not the lifestyle you'd like to live, because otherwise you'd be doing it. That's how I feel confident saying that. I feel confident that if you worked and at this point you're retired, your parents gave you a work edict, an ethic, and said, here, number one, the edict is you're gonna work. I didn't raise no free loafers. And number two, you saw your parents and like, oh, that's what I need to do? Yeah, that's what I need to do. Okay. My turn. Tap. Put me in. I'm ready to go to work. I understand what it is I'm supposed to do. And that's the problem I think these people haven't had in their lives. They don't understand what exactly that means. All right, so I see Reagan is in I call it the green room. It's basically just a block on my screen. She's in there. I'm going to check her levels and make sure that everything is good. And then we're going to bring on Reagan Reese from the Daily Caller, who is a White House reporter. And so give me 90 seconds to check her levels and everything, and we'll be right back.
Back to Fanfare with Barry Cunningham.
All right, everybody. Before I bring Reagan on, there's one comment here, and I say it so often, I don't know how people miss it. I'm not talking about people, quote, who really can't work. I'm not talking about disabled, handicapped, or mentally infirmed, or have some sort of affliction. I need to put an asterisk and have it run on the bottom of the screen. Barry's not talking about people who really can't work. That should be a given at this point, shouldn't it? Shouldn't you already know that I'm not talking about those people? The people who need our help, the least of us? That's not who I'm talking about. I'm talking about the people who are able-bodied and choose not to work. That's a huge difference. A massive difference that I'm not sure why people always go to that. I won't say excuse, but in any event, to me, it's an excuse. I'm sorry. You can say what you want. If you're able-bodied and you choose not to work, I ain't got much to say about you because I'm not working for you. I am not doing what I do for anyone other than my wife, my child, and my grandchildren. And then, of course, whatever the taxes do, the government does the rest. And then, we give to church. But other than that, get your ass off the couch and go to work, unless you can't. And those people should be fine. So I'm sorry to take a moment like that. I have felt very strongly about that my entire life because my military dad basically drilled it into my head And I wasn't allowed to sit around at home as a young boy, so he didn't. Not going to let anyone else deal with that either. All right, so in case you guys don't know, Reagan Reese, this is her ex-following. Reagan Reese is a White House correspondent for the Daily Caller. She's in the thick of things there. Reagan, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
All right, good. So, were you in the room yesterday, or were you watching like we were and just saw what happened?
I was watching like you were. I was watching live in the newsroom, and I kept gasping every second.
So, you had, a little under, maybe about 24 hours to digest that. What in the hell happened? Did he really sandbag this guy? I felt like he gave him an opportunity to come clean, and then when he didn't come clean and admit that you got problems in your country, then he hammered him. From your perspective, being there, what was the aura? There must have been some planning that went on with that, because obviously he had the screen ready, he had the video ready, he had the documents ready. What did you think?
Yeah, so we read in the White House pool reports that when the press walked in, there were TVs set up, like a screen set up, and it was unclear whether the president was going to show something or not. So we do know from the fact that there was a TV set up that they probably were planning to show these videos. It looks like President Trump, they exchanged pleasantries. President Trump took a few questions, and then the question of genocide in South Africa came up, and President Trump, that's when he chose to pivot to these videos, really put the South African president on blast right there. It got very tense in the room. And then even, not even the South African president who was under fire, the NBC News reporter who decided to, break the silence after those videos and ask about the Qatari jet. That was really the icing on the cake.
I noticed today that Peter Alexander, I think that's his name, he didn't show up in today's briefing. Was that on purpose, or was he actually banished or something?
A lot of these reporters have multiple, or a lot of these outlets have multiple correspondents that they rotate with. So, it was probably just that they were rotating. It wasn't his day to sit, and it was another NBC News reporter day in that seat. I haven't heard any news of whether he's been banished. I doubt it. I think President Trump likes sparring with the press.
He does it well, that's for sure. So, how do I say this I don't want you to have any problem with people in that room, but Michelle Cinder asked what I thought was a stupid question. She tried to basically attack Caroline Leavitt today. Why is it that you think some of these people decide that they want to take her on? Because I don't think it definitely doesn't work, but why would you want to do that?
Yeah, I don't know. I think that her question seemed to be a matter of definition disputing. I don't know. She was saying that the president was wrong in saying that was a specific burial site, but they were people buried there. And, I think this is a classic example of what the legacy media does, is that they miss the forest for the trees with President Trump. They will pick one little thing he says and they will take it literally. And they, it's just ironic because a lot of this stuff happened under President Biden and we didn't get the same type of questioning done. And so I really found the question absurd because it just, whatever she meant, it really felt like she was just nitpicking President Trump's words.
Working for the Daily Caller, and I think I can ask you this without infringing upon your relationship with other people there. Do they tell you, Reagan, if you get a chance, ask this question? Or does Reagan, as a journalist, get to walk in and ask the question that you want to ask?
Oh, no one is ever telling me what question to ask, whether it's the White House, whether it's my editors. My process typically is I wake up, I know there's a briefing, I read the news, and I start to think to myself, what is everyone else going to ask? Right. And so, sometimes we do have a question about Elon Musk or the South African genocide, but you do run the risk in these briefings of asking a question like that and Caroline Leavitt being on the defensive and kind of thinking, because that's, what the libs had all asked, that you're kind of trying to attack her. So I try to go a different direction. I try to ask a question that's really important to the President Trump's base. And so we've asked before about the Epstein files. We asked about the Robert Hur tapes. We got that conversation started. And today I asked about the investigation into the assassination attempt on President Trump, because I think over the weekend, Dan Bongino gave a really interesting answer when asked about this. And I think it's something you and your audience still really care about.
Well, as you just said that when we cut from the press conference, that's what I specifically said that to everybody. Like, these reporters don't go in and ask what the people want. They ask what they think they want, because they just got the big, beautiful bill passed in the House. And one of the biggest things was obviously what happens with Social Security. Nobody even asked, okay, it says no taxes on tips, no tax on overtime, but nobody asked, is there a limit to no tax on tips and no tax on overtime? How do people find out more of that kind of information if the people in the press room aren't asking those questions?
It's a great question. Well, we hope to bring you guys all the answers on the Daily Caller website. We hope to go through the bills and ask all those good questions. We have really great reporters right now that are on Capitol Hill who are all day running around trying to ask questions, trying to ask these questions of congressmen and women. And I think you bring up a really great point, Barry. And I thought about this a lot during the Biden administration. I was one of the only conservative voices in that room. And there's, half of the country is conservative and they are not represented in that briefing room. And so, that is always on my mind when I go into the White House briefing room. I'm representing half of the country, and half of the country didn't get their views and their questions represented for 4 years. And so that's always on my mind. And that you bring up a great point with getting the answers when the media is not reflecting what people care about right now.
You bring up the Biden White House. So with everything that's been going on, I am absolutely stunned that people inside that room aren't following up. If you're watching what President Trump is saying, and he's dropping these hints, I'll call them hints. He brings up the video about the Clinton body count. He says that all roads lead back to Obama. He's talking about treason. Why are these questions not being asked? I mean, the president, when he speaks, makes news. And it seems like people are avoiding the news that he's actually putting out there. What do you think about that?
Yeah, the briefings are hard. Sometimes it's hard to get a little bit of news outside of Caroline Leavitt. The good news is that President Trump is very accessible. And when you ask him a question, he's pretty straight with you and he gives you a response. And so, I'm thinking back to when he put out those Truth Social posts about Biden and treason. I'm not sure how many opportunities there have been to ask him questions. So I'll say this. I think that they will definitely come up in questions. I've been talking to reporters who want to ask President Trump those types of questions. And so, fingers crossed that they get the opportunity to do so.
You just said something that spiked in my mind, is that do the reporters hold back from what they ask Caroline versus what they ask Trump? I mean, she's basically his mouthpiece, I would think. But are there questions that you guys like, no, she's not the one to ask, we'll ask him directly? Is that the case?
Yes and no. Sometimes a question I have for Caroline, I can rephrase a little bit and say, if I have the opportunity to ask President Trump, I'll just ask him. So, I mean, take this answer today I got on the assassination attempts, the investigations. I asked Caroline if the president was satisfied with the investigations into the attempts on his life. And she said, yes, you've heard from him, kind of reaffirmed that to me. But I do think if you look back at that Bret Baier interview he did last week, he seemed very frustrated and unnerved at the fact that he hadn't gotten a ton of answers on the assassination attempts. And so that's a question I'll probably recycle and try to ask President Trump, because we might get a different answer. It really all depends on, what Caroline says and who you think might give the better answer.
I noticed that there wasn't a whole lot about the murder that took place last night. Why is that? Is it because they don't want to bring it up and don't want to make that public, or Is there some other reason why they wouldn't talk about that?
I would say there's not a ton of information about it yet. That's like my gut reaction to it, is that we're still, I know Dan Bongino mentioned a manifesto. We're still waiting for details on that manifesto. We know who the guy is. They haven't dug up a ton. There hasn't been a ton dug up on him. For the most part, I think this unfortunately seems very cut and dry. And so, that perhaps maybe there's not enough controversy around it yet. It feels so wrong to say, but that's kind of my gut feeling right now.
So the Jake Tapper book came out. I don't know if you had a chance to read it or get the Reader's Digest condensed version and see some of the stuff that's being talked about. How is the White House press room taking this are they taking it as an expose, or is it like, hey, we already knew this and we just we ignored it?
Yeah, that is a really great question. I found that Jake Tapper and Alex Thompson have been explaining this, and they've said conservatives were right, but conservatives were right about what they were seeing. What you guys don't realize is that there was a ton going on behind the scenes. And it's like, well, we had a feeling that there was a ton going on behind the scenes, but no one in, conservative media was sourced up enough to get those answers. The people who were sourced up were CNN, ABC, CBS, etc. And so I find the response quite offensive to the fact that they are trying to tell us, like, oh, you guys don't realize how much was happening behind the scenes. And it's like, we could use our imagination. And that's essentially what we've been saying. And so I just think the fact that they're treating us like that is so wrong.
From your own perspective, not talking to the people in the room, but just from Reagan Reese and your inner circle, is there something coming with this? Was there a reason why you think Jake Tapper dropped this now? Even though obviously it's taken some time to write a book, but why now? Why are people turned around and throwing darts at Joe Biden? What are they trying to say?
Well, in one hand, I think the debate caused a lot of media and Democrats to realize that what they were hiding from wasn't unavoidable. And so do I think that maybe they are trying to save face a little bit and run cover for themselves? Yes. I do think it just took a long time to get the book out. Apparently, Jake Tapper has said that he went to Alex Thompson the day after the election and said, we should write this book. They interviewed 200 people, including cabinet officials and people on the Biden campaign and people close to the Biden family. And so that alone, I think, takes a long time to get out. And I think they turned it around relatively quickly.
Can you imagine people actually were open and telling him stuff like this? I would think that they would be very protective of what they did and who did what in this White House, because now you've given the Trump administration almost a way to look at some things. No?
Agreed. I don't know. I am, this whole situation is really just unbelievable. Yeah. And I'm at a loss for words, It's just unfortunate that we had been covering this for so long and now it's being talked about again. And still, I would have loved to know at the time that AIDS wanted to put Biden in a wheelchair, or that George Clooney forgot who Biden was, or that Biden wanted to testify at Hunter Biden's trial. I'm loving all the details that are coming out. I can't believe the details that are coming out, but at the same time, it's so sad that we weren't able to know this at the time.
Are they admitting now that, we kept this from you guys? It just seems weird that we're reading this book that if any of this, it seems like any of this information was disclosed in October, it would have been even a more of a landslide than it was. People would have found out that the media did it. So here's an actual question for you. And this is a personal perspective, not naming any names. Do you think this mainstream media can regain their credibility?
I don't know. I would say to your audience, I would be very skeptical of how they're trying to make nice with you. Yeah. And I think they want to regain their credibility, and I think they can be relatively convincing about it. But if they, I don't think that they deserve to have the credibility regained. I think they should think about, if they're genuine about the reflection that they're doing right now, then they should be thinking about how they're treating President Trump. And they should be reflecting on their coverage holistically. It shouldn't just be on Democrats and President Biden. It should be on everything. And I don't think we are seeing that. And so I would just caution people in thinking that this apology is enough, because I don't think it is.
Who do you read? When Reagan gets up and she's like, I want to check a news source, and this is someone that you trust, who do you trust?
So I actually read everything in the morning. I read Axios, I read Politico, I read Semaphore. I basically read everything that's going on the left, and I take a look at what they're complaining about. And then if they're complaining about something, then that gives me a good indication that I should dig into it and see if they're being truthful, if there's more to the story, and that usually is a story in of itself. But, I trust what my sources are telling me. And so we always try to, do our own reporting and talk to our own people. And that way, people don't have to rely on the Politicos and the New York Times and the Washington Post of the world.
So last question for you. And this one might be a little bit personal. It may offend you even. But when we watched the last press conference, there were quite a few people in that audience who were probably better than some of the people in the mainstream media. That kid press conference was simply amazing. I mean, we showed it, and everybody was like, oh my gosh, these kids were so properly behaved. And one of the things I was thinking about is, since we know that most of that press corps is liberal, were a lot of those kids children of liberal reporters?
So I don't know. I know that it was a lottery. So you were able to, if you were a reporter or in the administration, you were able to submit, to get a ticket to bring your kid. So I think it was a lottery system. So I think it was a mixed bag of both administration officials and reporters.
Wow, it was so much fun. So the last question is, as I always say, what's up next? You're breaking for probably Memorial Day weekend, but anything you're working on and we should be ready to take a look at next week?
Yeah, I mean, I checked back in with the Muslims in swing states that were part of the protest vote. And I talked to them about what they think so far of the job President Trump has done. So stay tuned for that story. That should be coming soon on the Daily Caller website. All right,
Reagan, thank you very much. Have a great weekend. And you're up in Washington, right?
Yes, I am.
Stay safe. There's some crazy people going up there. Stay safe. We want to see you next week. All right. Have a great weekend. All right, everybody. That was Reagan Reese, and you can catch her on X and also on the Daily Caller. Here's her X handle. It's at Reagan Reese. And so I'm going to take a quick break, not a long break, just literally that 90-second break, and then we're going to come back and I'm going to show you some stuff about the social, what do you call it, the tax on Social Security, and then we'll be almost done.
Back to Fanfare with Barry Cunningham.
All right, so again, I see people, just so you understand, I was not talking about people who are handicapped. I don't even like using the word handicap. I think we just put that away. It's disabled. I'm not talking about disabled, whether it's mentally or physically. Last time I'm going to say it. Hopefully people in the chat next time can say, he's not talking about those people. Chill. Jeez. I don't feel like I have to say things 4 or 5 times. Come on, people. Get with it. Before I show you this Social Security information, I want to talk to you about something else that Patriot Addict is putting together. This one's amazing. It's an amazing deal. Patriot Addict is back with their best-selling Trump Collector's Bundle called the Berry Pack. And this is pretty interesting. The Berry Pack is the ultimate Trump collection, featuring the Trump 4547 hat, which I'm waiting to receive, the Trump 2024 flag. The Trump 2024 flag, hold on, let me get it off my little thing here. This is the Trump 2024 flag, and let me turn it around so you can see it the right way. This is the Trump 2024 flag. It's pretty good size. By the way, I'm not sure if you noticed or if you know this, but President Trump's birthday is June 14th, and June 14th also happens to be Flag Day. Yeah, Flag Day. And that's what we're talking about. So you get, they're installing something for when Ashley gets here tomorrow. You get the flag. You get the hat, the different hat. You get the Trump knife. You also will get the Trump blanket. All 4 of these items. Let me bring this up here and show it to you. All right, so you get this as well. It's called the Berry Pack, and the Berry Pack is the blanket. It is the knife. It is the flag. It is the Trump 2024 hat. You get all this stuff. All of it. Normally, it would cost $238 if you bought each of these items separately. You get it for $69. The flag, the blanket, the knife, and the hat. For $69. Just gotta go ahead and click the QR code right here, or go to berrypack.com. Berrypack.com. You better do it before they're all gone. They said they've only got like 500 packs set aside as they put this together and packaged it, and it's exclusively for the Fanfare audience, for you guys that are watching our videos. Nobody else is getting this. No, tell me if you see it, but the Berry Pack. Berrypack.com. So just go ahead and scan the QR code or go to berrypack.com. All right, so in closing, as we get ready to close the afternoon show, a lot of people have been asking about the no tax on Social Security. And our guest that was coming today, she was going to be here. She was going to explain the whole thing. That was Kamak, however you say her name. But she did a great video that she posted. So I'm going to play this video, and then we'll go over it. But I want you to hear every word of what she says here.
The no tax on Social Security, and this is really important, and I need to do a separate video on this entirely, because once you understand the process, you become basically unbullshittable. And I think a lot of people have fallen into this trap. And I would be upset too if I didn't understand the process and wanted to better get why it was done the way it was. So under reconciliation, you cannot touch Social Security. You cannot touch it. It is called a fatality. That is the parliamentary and procedural language that is used if you are directly impacting Social Security. So in order to do a clean no tax on Social Security, you would actually end up taking the entire package down. And so why...
All right, let me stop her right there so you understand. Maybe most of you didn't know. In order to attach no tax on Social Security, this bill could not be the big beautiful bill. It cannot be done. It was never going to be a part of this bill. So that's, I think, where the original issue came from. People thought this was part of the whole big beautiful bill thing. It was never going to be attached to the big beautiful bill. That may be a communication error by the Trump team, because people kept saying, well, what do you mean? There's no tax on tips, no tax on overtime. You said there's no tax on Social Security. He didn't say it was part of this bill. He said he wants to do no tax on Social Security, but he didn't say it was a part of the big, beautiful bill. And I think people were either not communicated correctly, but now you know it could never have been a part of this bill. It has to be standalone. So now you can tell your buddies, your friends, and say, okay, we understand. This was never a part of it. It's its own other thing. We got a couple years. We're going to get this done for you. But it's not a part of this one. But I do have a bonus for you. Here's what she says.
To do it this way is because in a reconciliation, you don't need 60 votes in the Senate. You just need a simple majority. That's why reconciliation is such a powerful tool. But there's a lot of rules and guidelines that you have to operate within. And one of them is the issue that you cannot touch Social Security. So 2 important things on that. When the left, particularly, the Democrats, when they say that we're touching Social Security, that is a lie. That is such an absolute lie. Because if we did, it would bring the entire bill down. And
all right, so you get that. That's how you know it's a lie. You can tell your liberal friends, your coworkers, and your family, you're lying. Nobody's touching Social Security. It's not happening, because if they were touching Social Security, this would not be voted on. That's how you know they lied. That is your trigger to understand you can't touch Social Security in a reconciliation bill. So everybody who's saying, oh, they're taking away this and they're destroying Social Security. No, they're not. They're not touching Social Security. You've heard it here, all right? Can't touch it.
There's so many elements to keeping this thing on track with the parliamentary procedure and everything, that anything in that vein would absolutely prohibit it from even moving forward. So just by virtue of the rules, they're lying, because they know that you can't touch Social Security. But the second side of that is you can do something to do a tax credit, right? So under the way that we have it written, you currently have it where there's a $4,000 deduction, which if you are making $75,000 or less, that actually covers your entire tax burden.
All right. So there's some news for you in case you didn't know. If you're making less than $75,000, if you're on Social Security, you've got a $4,000 tax credit. A tax credit is different than a tax deduction. A tax credit you can directly apply to whatever tax burden you have. More than likely, if you're only making $75,000 a year and you're on Social Security, that $4,000 tax credit should pay off anything that you would owe. So essentially, now I'm looking here, that's it. It's the same thing. Oh, we're going to tax you. Oh, I want no tax on Social Security. Well, here's a tax credit as well. Oh, so you're going to take $4,000 from me, but you're giving me a $4,000 credit. That's a wash. You get that? That's really important. Obviously, if you make more money than that, and of course that's different. But if you make $75,000 or less, if you're working and you're just still taking your Social Security, you make $75,000 or less, $4,000 tax credit. Okay, I'll see if there's any comments in here, and we'll talk.
Social Security, so you're made whole. Now, our goal is ultimately to do no tax on Social Security entirely, but that is going to be a standalone vote outside of reconciliation, because again, in order to get all these things like no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, locking in the tax rates so they don't skyrocket, right? Because if we don't lock them in by the end of the year, then they go up significantly. They revert back to the Obama years. That is why we have to do this. So it is a temporary situation while we work towards actually getting full-blown now tax on Social Security for every tax bracket.
All right, so I'm going to look into the comments here. I want you guys to know, okay, it's different, okay? Tax credit has nothing to do with your refund. It's a credit. So if you make over $75,000, then you're probably not going to get that credit. I don't know. I was hoping she'd be on today and I would ask her. So let's just focus right now on what we know. I'm not going to tell you something I don't know. So if somebody said, hey, I make $90,000, do I still get the $4,000 tax credit? When we get her on, I will ask her that specifically. But so let's just keep it right now to those of you who make 75 grand or less. If you make $75,000 or less, including your Social Security, you only have to pay, well, actually you don't pay, you get a credit for $4,000 that you can then apply to whatever tax basis you have. Everybody straight with that? I know it can be confusing and everything, but just want to make sure that everybody understands that. Why is, see, no, you don't get the money, it's a tax credit. Yes, you're not, no one's giving, well, essentially they're giving it to you. Because if you have a bill, you get a credit. So it's a tax credit. It's like a coupon. That's a great way of putting it. It's basically a $4,000 coupon. All right. I definitely make less than that. If you make less than that, yes, this bill will not affect me directly. Yep, I make $30,000 a year. Do I have to file? This has nothing to do with filing your taxes. Again, you have to file. Everybody has to file. That's not what this is all about. It's what happens when you have to pay. And if you have to pay, people were wondering, am I going to get taxed on my Social Security? Well, you're going to get taxed on your Social Security. That hasn't been repealed. You're going to be taxed. However, you now have a coupon. You know, when you go online and you can put a coupon in, you're basically getting a coupon. They don't call it a coupon, they call it a tax credit. So as long as your tax bill isn't above $4,000, you're not going to have to pay anything. Let me just look at it. All right. Just Mary goes, okay, I understand now. I'm looking to see if people have questions with this. 4,000 times 2 for 2 people. That would be a question I would have to ask Kat when she comes on. All right. So great question. I'm going to write that down because, again, I'm not going to tell you something I don't know and look stupid. So, no, I don't know if it's per household, per person. I would think it's per person. I would believe it's per person because it's your tax basis. So, let's see here. You don't have to file under a certain amount. That changes every year. True. Yeah, true. But okay, let's rephrase this. This is for the people who make under $75,000 who will have a tax bill. So now everybody else, just go ahead and let the Red Sea part here. You have to have a bill. You have to say, listen, I owe taxes. All right. So if you don't have enough income or you don't have this we're not talking about you. We're talking about the people who are worried about paying taxes on Social Security. If those are the people who get the $4,000 get out of jail free card. All right. I hope it's all right. Okay. Credit my ass. You don't have to file. I don't know what the ceiling is. Varies at $4,000 or up to $4,000. Well, since it's a tax credit, that would be something we can also ask. Does it roll over? Like if you only owe, $1,200 next year, can I apply $2,800? I doubt it. I don't think the government's going to let you roll that credit over, but we would have to find out definitively. As of right now, I would assume, I'm not saying, but it's $4,000 per year. If your tax is $2,500, do you get the remainder? No. No one's paying you $4,000. You're not getting $4,000 to pay it. You can apply the credit. And think about it like going to the grocery store. You get a coupon on the Sunday flyer. It says, hey, $5 off of your purchase of XYZ. They don't give you $5. They're like, hey, let me buy this thing. We'll take $5 off. That's pretty much how it's going to work. Does credit carry over year to year? I don't know, so I'm not going to say, but I would presume no, because if $4,000 covers your tax basis on a $75,000 income, they're not going to let you take $8,000 off the next year. Tax credit. Yes, Lisa, you are correct. Tax credit. Can you spend it? No, it's not cash. It's a tax credit. So you pay taxes. I thought it was a deduction, not a credit. All right, so let's, since there is some people are talking, and it's only 2 minutes long. Let me play it again. I want you guys stop typing. Everybody stop typing. Listen. Listen to what she says here.
The no tax on Social Security, and this is really important, and I need to do a separate video on this entirely because once you understand the process, you become basically unbullshittable. And I think a lot of people have fallen into this.
And I want you to become unbullshittable. I love that word. I'm going to have to get a t-shirt with that. Unbullshittable.
Trap. And I would be upset too if I didn't understand the process and wanted to better get why it was done the way it was. So under reconciliation, you cannot touch Social Security. You cannot touch it. It is called a fatality. That is the parliamentary and procedural language that is used if you are directly impacting Social Security. So in order to do a clean no tax on Social Security, you would actually end up taking the entire package down. And so why we wanted to do it this way is because in a reconciliation, you don't need 60 votes in the Senate, you just need a simple majority. That's why reconciliation is such a powerful tool. But there's a lot of rules and guidelines that you have to operate within, and one of them is the issue that you cannot touch Social Security. So two important things on that. When the left, particularly, the Democrats, when they say that we're touching Social Security, that is a lie. That is such an absolute lie. Because if we did, it would bring the entire bill down. And there are so many elements to keeping this thing on track with the parliamentary procedure and everything, that anything in that vein would absolutely prohibit it from even moving forward. So just by virtue of the rules, they're lying because they know that you can't touch Social Security. But the second side of that is you can do something to do a tax credit, right? So under the way that we have it written, you currently have it where there's a $4,000 deduction, which if you are making $75,000 or less, that actually covers your...
Okay, so I think I know where the confusion is. She talked credit and deduction in the same sentence. It is a tax credit. So she used the same word, she used credit and she used deduction, but it is a tax credit.
Entire tax burden for Social Security, so you're made whole. Now our goal is ultimately to do no tax on Social Security entirely, but that is going to be a standalone vote outside of reconciliation, because again, in order to get all these things like no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, locking in the tax rates so they don't skyrocket, right? Because if we don't lock them in by the end of the year, then they go up significantly. They revert back to the Obama years. That is why we have to do this. So it is a temporary situation while we work towards actually getting full-blown now tax on Social Security for every tax bracket.
All right, so let me do this because I can see all the questions here and people not understanding about tax credit versus deduction versus a payment, all these different things. As of right now, based on what she said and what I've read, it's a $4,000 tax credit for those making under $75,000. You guys have asked some amazing questions here. And so what we're going to do is Ashley's going to rebook her, and in the interim, Ashley, if you can get the guy from the tax center, we'd love to talk to him. This is important to see. This is what reporters should be doing. Reporters should be asking questions that you guys want to hear. There must be 50, 60 questions right now. And so let's go ahead and find out specifically what this thing is. Is it a deduction? Is it a tax credit? How do you apply it? Does it roll over? I love it. And this is what you want to know. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to get people in here. If like I said, she was supposed to be here today, but she had to leave and come home because one, she's pregnant. Number two, they work for 36 hours straight. So let's figure it out. I got my marching orders right here. My marching orders are like, go get somebody in here who can discuss this. Ashley, you hear it. Let's book somebody as soon as possible who can come and explain this, because I love it that you guys you're checking Grok, you're doing all this stuff. Hundreds, literally probably 100 questions here. We are going to get somebody who can come and answer all of these questions. That's my promise to you. Like I said, this is the holiday weekend. I don't know how fast she can be rescheduled or if we can get somebody else in here, but This is what it's all about. This is what the media should be doing. They should be looking and go, hey, this is something that people care about. Why are you not doing a press conference just on this? Answer every single question people have. So I'm going to get on it. I know a lot of people can't afford to go to an accountant, so I'm going to get somebody in here who will answer these questions for free, and hopefully someone who is involved in writing the actual law. Because if you get someone who was actually involved in writing the law, you are going to hear it from the horse's mouth instead of like from 10 different people. So that being said, my promise to you is that we will go ahead and get somebody who can ask these questions, because it's really important. We got time. Let me just tell you that. Let me just tell you this. Hold your questions. We're going to get somebody on here. We got time. It's still got to go to the Senate, and the Senate's going to have to talk about it. So it's not like it needs to be answered tomorrow. I will endeavor to make sure we get somebody in here who can talk to you about this. It's my promise to every single one of you. That being said, let me go ahead and look at some super chats so we can all go eat some lunch and then come back here at 7:30 tonight. And also, to let you know, I doubt there will be a show tomorrow. There may be a pre-recorded video. My daughter and her husband will be here tomorrow, and so we got some family time this weekend. All right, so let's go to this. What happened here? How come I can't see this person's name? 1 second. I'm going to have to move this up so I can see whose name this is. 1 second. Why is it not showing me her name? All right, hold on. I had it set up. 1 second. Whose name is this? All right, so I can see now. Boston Dottie. I couldn't see your name, so I had to reconfigure the whole doggone thing so I could get your name in here. All right, now we can see it. Now you guys can see it. Great. Boston Dottie, very appreciate your channel so much. I always learn something new, and I love how you break stuff down. Thank you very, very much. And if I don't know something, I am not going to pretend like I do know it, like some people you might see. I will find someone who can explain exactly what it means. Job for 9, what tax year do the changes take effect? Part of this I do know is because President Trump actually came out and said it was supposed to be 2028, part of the big beautiful bill for 2026. My dad is 81 and has an iPhone. You can learn. Exactly. Thank you, CR. George Rivera Jr., Barry, fear not, your choice of an online uniform is in good company, from billionaires to Charlie Brown. You do you. Yeah, I just wondered. I mean, I've gotten some emails where people say the white shirt's too bright. And my wife says it looks too dark, and I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I do know I have to be uniform because of the different things we cut and everything. So, I don't know. I'll try some different shirts. Julie McClure, enjoy watching your podcast on YouTube and Rumble. Appreciate all that you do. SV, what's this? SV just sent me something. Hold on. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I thought that was SB, somebody else. Thank you, and the mods as well. Thank you. Ricky Williams, Barry, if Trump does go with the treason charges, then Tribunal's first point of focus should be General Milley, and stuff he told China would give them notice if Trump planned military action towards them. That is aid. Yeah, he may indeed go that way. It's a tailor-made suit. Ricky Williams, the obstacle of treason charges on Milley is his pardon that is possibly null and void given who actually signed it. No way Biden did it. See, that's the first thing I think they're going to do. I think they're going to go ahead and roll back these pardons, or attempt to, which is going to take some time. Demon of Cybertron, the Democrat voting lifestyle is taken out of title alone for a PlayStation. And Call of Duty while you wait for Snap, barely making money for the rent. Oh, so true. Daylight, truth is so rare that it's delightful to tell it. I think that's Emily Dickinson. Mountain Goddess, I know you're a busy guy, but when you get a chance, please look at Nawaja Ali, former DHS officer who handled asylum seekers. Okay. deep state corrupt. When Epstein walks in a court, they got to put... if Epstein walks into a courtroom, they better have it surrounded with military tanks and everything else. It might happen. It might happen. Deep state corrupt. My disability is $330 and half goes to Medicare Part B. Wow. Tommy Radcliffe, it's a tax credit or a promissory treasury note. If you owe $4,100 tax for the year, you only pay $100. Got it. Doesn't matter what it's called. It's simply $4K in the black for tax purposes only. And you win for today, because that's exactly how I see it too. But I'm going to get somebody in here who can absolutely explain it. All right, so I will see you guys here at 7:30 tonight.